Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Boys from the Baltic Star. Please tell me if my volume is too low or if someone else's is too high, and I shall, of course, make that change because when you have such accomplished guests as I have tonight, you want volume to be right. You want the levels to be perfect so that people can pick up on their sultry speaking patterns. And I want you all to have a sensual experience. Run yourselves a bath, grab yourself a Cadbury's flake and a red wine, light some candles, pour some scent, and just relax. For tonight is the start of our latest adventure with John and Rudi. If it is your first time on this channel, wow, what a night you have chosen to join us. Now, I do have to pre-warn you that John is not with us all the time, just for this adventure. So don't start watching expecting to see him every single episode that we do on this channel, because you will be let down. But when he is here, oh, what a treat. Welcome. If it is your first time, you're more than welcome to, I've got to do a beard for Ben, stay for as long or short as you want. We will run 2.5 hours-ish maybe. John is a couple of hours ahead of us and he powers through for us because he's an absolute legend. So please feel free to come and go, stay, whatever you feel, depending on how it goes. We will have a break at some point for a chance for you to get up and stretch your legs and so on. Please feel free to just listen, lurk. We love our lurkers, or you can join in the chat. Chat is very friendly. We will join in the chat when we have the chance to as well. You might find that chat leaks over into the game as well. Please feel free to spend points. There's lots of ways to spend the points. In honour of John being with us tonight, I Am Invincible has become Celebrate Rudi's unbeaten record.
I am invincible!
Let's see. So we celebrate Rudi's prowess whenever anyone spends those points. So speaking of which, let's do some introductions. My name is Luke. Hello. I'm so used to being in the bottom right. I wasn't paying attention. Hello. I'm the GM. I still haven't come up with a better phrase for it, but I'll be the one leading us through the annoying rules-based bits. Luckily, I am being carried by two of the finest role players you could ever hope to meet. A true double act. They're like the two Ronnies, Laurel and Hardy, and Bodie and Doyle all rolled into one. First up is the smartest man in any room. Well, normally he would be, but on nights like this, I'm not too sure. One of the smartest men in any room. The man who lives his life in the Twin Peaks dream sequence. And did you know, everyone, he's got a new job, Ben has. Now, we know that
because the lady loves milk tray.
He has been breaking into women's houses to leave chocolate on their sideboards as part of his job as the milk tray man. But he's been given a new job. He's going to tie that in and he's going to become the milk tray Santa over Christmas. And he's only going to break into the houses of women that have been very, very naughty to put Christmas chocolate. He's going to fill their stockings with Christmas chocolate. It is Ben. Good evening, Ben. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
It's a treat to have you with us as always. How have you been anyway?
Good, thanks. Yeah, good. Very much looking forward to a much more successful game tonight than last night's utter catastrophe.
Yeah. How many times did you die within an hour last night?
We died twice. Yeah, we died twice.
That's disappointing. Well, hopefully you'll get through tonight without dying. No promises.
That would be good.
100% success rate so far.
That's right. And remember, I mean, Rudi has his sort of 9-0 victorious record punching out boxers, but he's also effectively punched out a train and a liner.
Are we saying that Rudi Otto's record is now 11-0?
Effectively, yes. Yeah. And given that one of them's a locomotive and one is a steamship, I think that's impressive.
And he's never been beaten.
Unbeaten.
Unbeaten. Speaking of which, if you look next to our dear friend Ben, It is Rudi himself. It is our brother from another Greek mother. That didn't work at all. It is everyone's favourite man from 2 hours in the future. It is the luxurious John. Good evening, John. How are you?
Good evening, Luke. I'm super excited to be here as always.
Chat are super excited to have you here as always as well. You're a favourite, I believe, a crowd favourite. I hope that I hope you've got lots of clothing descriptions for Rudi over the evening, just to set their hearts
I,
aflutter.
I've thought about, but I have more interesting character development for Rudi this time, I believe.
Oh, we'll have to see how that goes down. You've got everyone's attention. Let's put it that way. See, Kelly's on their way already. Speaking of characters, John, why don't you tell us a bit about Rudi?
Sure. For those who don't know Rudi, Rudi is a German-born but caravan-raised man who is who has traveled all around Europe and maybe all around the world from a very young age. He's multicultural, you can say, and when he was a teenager, he became part of underground street boxing, and that led into his 20s, where he actually became a pro boxer. He used his dirty boxing style and got him through to an official 9-0 undefeated record in the heavyweight division. Rudi is a rather, rather large man with broad shoulders, and well, of course, when he was in his 20s, he was in a very fit and competitive, athletic physique. But right now, we are in his 50s, mid 50s, I presume. And although I used to describe him as that he has gained a lot of weight. Wait, but let me first complete his story first, because before I go to his latest news. After he amassed some money from boxing, he he followed his true desire, and during his 30s, he began his academic pursuits, especially in history, and he was quite successful there. Um, he met a lot of people, including, of course, our dear beloved Tony Guerrero. And after his 40s, he became a scholar, curator, the classic Indiana Jones type of stuff that leads you to adventures such as the today's. And yes, after he has been the savior, part of the savior of Berg, I presume. Where was that train leading?
Bern. It was off to Bern, I believe.
Bern, yeah. And then with his latest exploits over the sea of Mediterranean, his latest news that he has lost quite a bit of weight. That's true character development.
Oh, that is character development.
He became a little more distant and not as open and friendly as he used to be. Maybe the same level of pompousness, but some things have changed, because it was for the very first time in his life that he encountered the supernatural in the form of Mary Magdalene's bracelet. And that struck a nerve on him. Something changed. And he used to don a very big mustache, and now he also has a beard, because he has, somehow let himself go. He doesn't enjoy food as much as he enjoys drinking these days. He more than usual, I mean, but not a social drinker. He sits around in dark rooms and dark libraries, and he investigates the occult and the supernatural. And he drinks wine when he does to. And that's it for me for now.
Oh, the beard for Ben, I'm putting on top of you. You can double beard. Rudi. Rudi has changed, but what of his dear friend Tony? Tony, tell us more about Tony. What's What's been happening with Tony's life? Has his life been as deep and dark and mysterious?
Tony's background is perhaps not quite so unusual. He is by origin Italian. As it turns out, in these 1930s adventures, we both turned out to be representing the Axis powers. He travelled fairly extensively to around Europe, discovering various things and looking into various parts of his life. He did a little bit of low grade work in various locations as he found his way into academia, and did a grand tour as part of his student days, and then eventually found his way into a sort of full-time academic position, where he blundered into Rudi, of course. The two of them became firm friends and enthusiasts for the academic life. But I think both of them felt there was something a little bit more out there than just another library, another lecture hall. And they started setting off on slightly more imaginative travels, seeing how the world could be as exciting as they could make it. And this is a very exciting time to be living in Europe, in some senses of the word exciting.
Certainly not boring.
It definitely isn't. He's currently basically determined to stay as far away from actual Italy. This is as close as he's prepared to get as he can manage, because of the very real danger of suddenly being conscripted.
Yes. Oh dear.
Yes, same for Rudi, for Germany.
Just to flounce around the other parts of Europe for a while, and hope that everything just blows over. I'm sure that will happen. But anyway, that's Tony and Rudi. I hope everyone has already fallen in love all over again with both of them. And if you would all do me the honour of allowing me to introduce this new adventure, and then I shall hand over to our dear heroes to continue their tale. So, it is December 1937, just over half a year since the fateful voyage of the SS Cannes that left numerous innocent and not so innocent people dead, and numerous pairs of Tony Guerrero's trousers ruined beyond the capabilities of even the best dry cleaners in Milan. Since then, the mighty Hindenburg has burst into flames in New Jersey, tragically killing 36 people. Neville Chamberlain has become Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I'm sure that'll go well. Amelia Earhart and Fred Newman have disappeared after taking off from New Guinea. And the first edition of The Hobbit has been published. Also, the mystery of what truly happened to the bracelet of Mary Magdalene after being removed from the wrist of Franco agent Camille Moulin has never fully been revealed. The truth only lies with Tony and Rudi, those who found the mythical bracelet in the first place, who saw Miss Moulin seemingly wield its unearthly powers, and who finally slay her atop the SS Cannes that fateful morning. Most of those on the ship did not both see the bracelet and or survive. And so it remained a myth among many, and a quickly forgotten story among others who dined out on the tale for a night or two, but slowly got taken over with the latest gossip of Europe. And so our heroes, Tony and Rudi, cast the bracelet to the bottom of the sea. Or did they keep it for themselves? Or hide it in the catacombs of Paris? Or they returned it to Casablanca? Or they kept it with themselves for when they most need it? Or no, they sold it to an unknowing merchant in exchange for new trousers and expensive wine. Did the bracelet actually exist at all? Dear viewer, while I spoke of the bracelet, how can you prove it was truly there at all? Perhaps I, your humble narrator, was misleading you purposefully, merely to build suspense and mystery to a simple tale. But anyway, I digress. I know little of what Tony and Rudi did for the months following their journey across the Mediterranean. I am neither their servant nor their accountant. However, it was in the November of 1937 when I heard their names spoken of once more. I had been starting to wonder what amazing adventures they may have found themselves wrapped up in, when I heard tell of their invitation to speak at the academic symposium at the Carlton Hotel in St. Moritz, Switzerland. St. Moritz, of course, at the peak of its glory after the 1928 Winter Olympics, enjoying global appeal and lure. Many great minds have been chosen to speak at the 4-day events between Thursday the 2nd and Sunday the 5th of December. And yet, despite their late call-up, our heroes have been given an entire precious day to discuss their quest to find this mythical bracelet of Mary Magdalene. With their minds full of hot fondue and ice-cold schnapps in the beautiful mountains, our heroes accepted the invitation and met together to prepare a day's worth of tales, truths, exaggerations, daring do, and archaeological knowledge to wow even the most hardened academic. When the time came to make their journey, they met up in Milan, despite Tony's protestations, it seems, and took the train ride together up into Switzerland and through the majestic mountains towards the glamorous St. Moritz. Taking a taxi from the station, they arrived on the Wednesday afternoon, with enough time to settle into the small Le Petit Grand Hotel, cursing their luck slightly that the world-famous Carlton was already full of the hundreds of other delegates to the symposium. They cursed their luck even more when the room they were given, calm yourselves here, socks and cows and spares. The room they were given came furnished with but one, albeit luxurious bed, with a trip to the apologetic manager only able to provide them with a twin room from Saturday night onwards. It appeared our heroes would be keeping each other warm for a couple of cold Swiss winter nights. The timetable of lectures itself threw up a lot of interesting possibilities, and this is the first little thing we can have here, including some old acquaintances. I'll just roll down to this. So this is the first thing you'll get here. Here we are. For example, Thursday morning. If you remember Monsieur Canard from the train, he is there again, talking of Egyptian gods and their cults. Oh, there'll definitely be pillow fights. Thursday afternoon, and this is available to you too whenever you want to ask for it. Okay. Thursday afternoon, Dr. Carl Schmidt, the historian, looking at human sacrifice among ancient civilizations. Our heroes, Monsieur Rudiotto and Monsieur Tony Guerrero, on searching for the bracelet of Mary Magdalene, a whole day. Saturday morning, someone we may remember, Monsieur Jean Durand, the actor, who was aboard the SS Cannes, who did not know of his former girlfriend's past. He's there talking about preparing for his latest role as Sigmund Freud. Saturday afternoon, Dr. Norman Wellesley was looking at sunlight and the human psyche. Sunday morning, Madame Claire Spelling, a botanist from America, and taming the broken mind nature's way. And a special treat Sunday afternoon, Monsieur Heinrich Habelin, the former president of Switzerland, looking at the future of aviation after the Hindenburg. After an interesting Thursday night saw our heroes eating at the Chez Avelia, a converted farmhouse, the oldest farmhouse in St. Moritz. Truly splendid local cuisine, which of course Tony these days enjoyed more than Rudi. But it even put Carlton's fine dining at lunchtime to shame. It's that good. After a Thursday night spent sharing warmth against the cold, snowy night outside, our heroes woke early but slightly bleary-headed for their entire day in the spotlight. Now, dear viewers, it's not my place as humble narrator to tell you how they beguiled and entranced the hundreds of great academic minds in the audience. I shall leave it simply for the heroes to tell you themselves if they so wish. I cannot tell you of what they said happened to the mythical bracelet, for I had been kicked out by that point for not having a ticket. Needless to say, they were a success from what I heard, having to answer questions from the huge crowd for hours in the afternoon and early evening. And this is where I'm able to pick up with them again, returning to the humble Le Petit Grand for their evening meal. From now on, our story is shared, and it is theirs to tell as much as it is mine. So all I will do is set the scene in the dining hall of Le Petit Grand, and then hand over to our fair heroes. So the hall itself, my dear friends, if I bring up the map for you tonight, in the bottom right-hand corner, I hope it's large enough. I'm going to bring down the symposium lifts. Le Petit Grand is a small hotel, much like almost like a lodge, a very classic sort of lots of smells of pine and leaves and sort of the smoke swirling around from shag, cherry shag from your tobaccos, the smell of fine wines and whiskies mingling among the hubbub of tweed and leathers and such like. You enter, it's over 2 floors with pointed roofs, of course, lots of pine beams, nicely varnished, nicely finished. It is very snug and it is a beautiful place. If you look at the bottom, that is the ground floor and the top is the upper floor. People would enter through the reception hall, and down there there's places to leave your coats and such like, and leave any notes for people. And then straight ahead is the dining hall where the two of you sit now at one of the many tables. Through the back you have the kitchen, and then out into a corridor for the snug, which is more of a relaxing lounge with fine armchairs where still you can drink but chat away. Next to that, the billiard room, a place to avoid if you wish not for murders, although this is not Cluedo, of course. And then along that corridor, 4 rooms. 8 is a double, 7 a single, 6 a double, 5 a single. And then back into the main reception. The special point of interest and a favourite of St. Moritz is an outside bar, where you can leave your dining hall, take your large coats and go and sit outside and drink fine mulled wines and schnapps while looking out over the beautiful mountains. Up the stairs by the reception, you head up to the first floor, where a couple of toilets, a bath room, 4 more rooms, 2 more doubles, 2 more singles, and then the owner's suite and the staff rooms, of course, out of your, you're not allowed to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, up here, you're very much in the eaves with the sloping down beams, each room beautifully set in the eaves with the windows set to look out over the beautiful small town of St. Moritz at this time. And this is where we are, in the dining room. There are many tables of many shapes and sizes. While the hotel can have, at most, 20 guests, people come from around to eat for the evening. And so you'll find in the dining hall about 30 people sat, and maybe a few more outside in the bar. Food is being passed around. There's a large roaring fire up between the 2 doors to the kitchen and the hallway, so to the right-hand side as we look at it. Beautiful. There's lots of winter greenery, hollies, sort of left draped around. There's mistletoe up. There are sort of Christmas decorations being placed around. A large tree in the corner, down in the bottom left as you're looking. And it has a beautiful festive feel. And the two of you are sat in a table by the fire at that end with one other person. And this is where I shall leave it to the two of you for now.
Well, it's the end of a long day. This is the Friday evening, so we've delivered our talk. We've answered all of the questions. We have obviously been extremely warmly received, and it's now still dressed in our sort of formal outfits for the symposium, but it's getting to the point where the belt's starting to feel a bit snug at the end of the evening, and Tony's leaning back in his chair, nursing a very large glass of Remy, and just gently sipping it.
Pause for a sec, Ben. We just need a reconnect. We had a bit of a funny moment. Hang on. Okay, could you guys? I'll just ask them to reset. So,
Yes, I can hear you.
cool. Just waiting, John. It's the thought of Remy that's excited him, I think. He's back with a big exclamation mark in front of his face, which is very upsetting. How do we get rid of those exclamation marks? Okay.
Well, I am wearing a pullover, like with like black and white colors or something. And I catch my coat and I say to Tony, "How about we take you to the outside bar, my dear Tony?"
That sounds perfect. The Remy is warm, still in the hand, so I will stand up and join you, Rudi, for a quick stroll onto the outside bar. Just patting my pocket to make sure I've still got some rough shag in there as I go.
I've heard a rough shag is your favourite sort, Tony.
It is.
So, now,
Rudi strokes gently his beard like that when he opens politely the door for Tony to go on first, and then goes on, proceeds to the barkeep and asks for Irish coffee, and gives him a little wink, and also lights up a pipe that he has now started smoking as well.
Splendid, splendid.
So he takes his Irish coffee, takes a sip, lights up his pipe, and sits to a table far away from anyone, as far away from anyone as possible. He also wears a hat, a winter hat for the cold. No fancy colors, nothing fancy. Maybe a scarf as well. And yeah, he has lost about 30 pounds or something like that in the 6 months. Tony has never seen him indulging in big feasts anymore, but rather he's quite a drinker and a smoker these days.
He's taken by the vices these days. John, could you hit one more reset, please, so we can get rid of your exclamation mark? The exclamation mark is how I feel whenever you're here, of course, but I like to feel it in my heart, not see it on your face. Perfect. So there we are, our two heroes, both dressed up warmly against the cold. But you see, dear viewers, there was one more at the table, and one more that we need to introduce tonight, who sat there and saw as our two colleagues left. And if I remove something for you, you'll be in the wrong place because it crashed. It is our secret weapon. If ever you needed a secret weapon. For you see, sat next to them. Please introduce yourself.
Sat next to them is their not so good friend, but still a good friend, I'd like to think. Gaston Delarue, a French-born 30-year-old man.
That makes him sound very different to all the other Frenchmen I've ever met.
Well, precisely. He has some quite light grey with a very faint blue pinstripe trousers in, a white wing-tipped collared shirt with a slightly darker grey waistcoat over the top, a bow tie, and just a little peak of some braces coming out from the sides of the waistcoat. Nice goatee and moustache, not joined up. And it's quite almost verging on gaunt, but not quite there. It's quite thin.
Now, of course, for a man that is so thin, of course, dear friends, poor old Gaston feels the cold more than our other two slightly more padded out friends, and it is a shame indeed that unlike our heroes who came in the lap of luxury on Wednesday, a day before, Gaston was caught out by traffic problems coming into Switzerland and had to catch the night train and got to the lectures just as the Thursday lecture was started. He has not had a chance to catch breath really in the last 2 days, barely to slow down. And this, for him, was going to be his first good meal that he's had since he's been in Switzerland. So I'm sure his face dropped a little as his two friends went outside into the cold yet again for a drink. So Gaston, do you wrap up and join them?
Yes, indeed. He doesn't have a jacket with him, but he will. He'll search somewhere around the dining area or the outside bar for like a fur blanket or something of a similar equivalent, and throw it over his shoulders.
Fantastic. We're going to get to our first roll of the night, dear viewers, and it's courtesy of Gaston. So those that haven't watched before, we play using Those Dark Places, which is a science fiction horror rule set, which we're using for 1930s fashion show game. Music's it's simple. They each have 4 main stats. Three heroes. 3 heroes now. Well, 2 heroes and a hanger-on. He hasn't ascended to hero yet. We'll decide. They have charisma, agility, strength, and education. They have a 4 in 1, a 3 in 1, a 2 in 1, and a 1 in 1. And they each have some extra skills, which we'll go into as and when we need them. Gaston, all they do is they add that dice roll to 1d6. And generally, they have to be an 8 for a standard. 8 or more for a standard challenge. 7 if it's easy, 9 if it's hard. There are other things we'll get into. But this one is a straight up roll. So looking for a nice... Describe the sort of the blanket you wish to go for, Gaston. How fussy are you being?
Not particularly fussy. He'll definitely try and find the most, luxurious padded, preferably thick fur skin. We're in the 1930s, so that's okay at this point, I suppose. And if need be, he'll ask around some of the staff, I suppose.
Okay, so first up, I'd like you to roll and make an education roll. You're sort of searching around, trying things out. So could you roll your education, add that to a d6 for me, please?
I can indeed. Oh, that's a good start. There's a 1.
Get it out of the way.
So that's a 3 total.
Now, as John gets up from his seat and moves up, Gaston, see, I'm so caught up in John. As Gaston gets up from his seat and walks around the hall looking for a beautiful blanket, he can't find any. There are many diners chatting, and the starters have not yet arrived, but everyone's on their sort of an aperitif and they're sort of getting prepared for the evening. Sort of pokes around, looks to see, even considers stealing one that someone's sitting on, but no, he's not that sort of man. So did you say you wanted to go and talk to staff to try?
Yeah, certainly. He'll find the closest member of staff, serving staff.
Yes, sir. How can I help you?
Fetch me the Venga bus.
The least 1930s song ever. The Venga bus, you say? Well, is that a euphemism, sir? Do you wish to ride the Venga bus?
No, my dear man. I wish to join my friends outside for a pre-dinner, after dinner. I'm not sure whether they've eaten. I'd like to join them outside for a smoke, and I have no jackets. Do you have a fur blanket of some kind, or something for warmth that will comfort me on such a night?
They sort of look up and down your gauntness. We're going to make our second thing here. We're going to make an opposed roll. So I will roll for the person who's a bit busy. The service, the waiter's a bit busy. We're going to roll on a charisma. So we're going to roll their charisma against your charisma. Now, dear viewers, Gaston has a very special trick up his sleeve because he has a +2 because he has chat of all trades. We've named it. So he's good at speaking to the staff and have a bit of a way, nudge, nudge, wink. Hey, can you find one for a mate, kind of thing. So could you roll your charisma +2 and add it to a d6, please? And I will roll their charisma with this.
That is better at a 4. +5's 9.
Which massively outweighs theirs. They basically put the thing they're carrying, the food they're carrying, down, not at the table of the person they're carrying to. The person sat at the table sort of looks mournfully as they just put it on the side somewhere and go, "Yes, sir, right away. Come with me," and leads you through into the hallway towards the snug, and then through. He heads into the snug and reaches behind the door and pulls out the most luxurious, like reindeer fur blanket you've ever seen. It would wrap around you twice. It's got a hood stitched onto it. We certainly do stand for you enough for that.
I feel this is going to be a good look as well, if I'm honest.
It says, "Sir, this is mine, but for tonight, I wish for you to use it for the whole evening, if it makes you feel comfortable. I also have fur mittens, if they would be of use for you. You look so cold and so gaunt, sir."
No. I'll pass on the mittens, but my sincere thanks for the coat, hood. What's your name, my good man? I'll be sure that it is returned to you.
Thank you. My name is Philippe. Just Philippe, sir. We all have different names here. We are just known by our first name, sir.
Well, in that case, Philippe, it's been my pleasure. You have my sincerest thanks. My name is Gaston, and he offers him a hand.
A pleasure to meet you, Gaston. Thank you so much. Please have a wonderful evening. I saw you sitting with your friends. Please send them my best regards, and when they return for food, I shall make sure each of you have an extra special drink. Staying with us for this week. They're such heroes, your friends.
You recognise of course, the famous Tony and Rudi, saviours of many people, and a city as well, I believe.
Their stories are legendary, though. Rudi's much smaller in real life than I thought he was.
You should have seen him back in the day, my good man.
Well, Gaston, sir, thank you so much. Please enjoy your evening. And he scurries off back to his tray to start serving up the starters to the tables around near the kitchen door.
Gaston looks suitably pleased with himself and makes his way to the outside bar to find his.
If I may, I would like to add, besides the weight loss thing, AIDS has finally caught up with him, and his once red and brownish hair and mustache now with a beard has a lot of gray. In a 6-month span, that like a lot of gray appeared in his hair and beard.
Oh, he's a silver fox.
Yes, becoming one. And there he stands, lighting up his pipe and saying to Tony, "You know what, my old friend? It's much better here in this petite hotel instead of being in the Carlon. You know, I prefer this solitude and peacefulness that this hotel, this establishment provides."
I don't hate it myself. I prefer the grandeur of the big dining room, but out here, when the night is still, just sitting with a friend, enjoying a drink, smoking a pipe, life could be a lot worse.
The outside
Speaking of
bar.
friends, Gaston, you seem cold. Why don't you drink a sip from my coffee? And I wink at him.
Monsieur Rudi, Monsieur Tony, do not worry. I on my way through, I ordered 3 schnapps to be brought out to us. That'll warm our insides.
Say cockles, you coward.
And as he says this, he pulls out a case from his top waistcoat pocket and lights up a what are they called? A cigarella. But thank you.
So in the outside bar, from where you're looking, so to the left as you're looking where it says reception, the way this establishment has been built is very clever. It is very much on the edge of the town. For those that know anything about St. Moritz, which I didn't until recently, the Carlton Hotel was built sort of upper back and forth like a chicaned road out of the town, up into, and from that bit where it says, if you're on the outside bar, the left-hand side where it says reception, if you look out that way, there are some seats that can look up towards the Carlton, which right now, as it's dark, it's middle of winter in Switzerland. The light is indeed, as Tony says, looks grand. It's grand and beautiful in that style, if that makes sense. The very sort of mankind has made his appearance. It is grand. Light spilling out. It looks stunning. But if you look straight forward, so down to the bottom where it says outside bar, you have the expanse of mountains. It is a very, the snow has stopped, but there's snow all around, of course. And the sky has gone very clear and the stars are out. Because you're on the edge of town, the light pollution is not as bad. And it's still the 30s, so it's not that bright anyway. And stood here with bar there and a barman. The bar is back with its back to where it says dining hall. To give you as much space as possible to stand or sit at the bars and stare out. It is cold, but it is still. And as the schnapps get brought to you by another waiter, he hands one to each three of you and smiles and nods and says, "Please enjoy the evening, sirs," and heads back over to the bar.
Rudi takes a snaps and spills it inside his Irish coffee. And mixes it up and takes a sip. Ah. Wunderbar.
Yes, Tony will also just tip the glass slightly towards Gaston in thanks, and then take a sip of the schnapps, and this sort of glorious smile comes over his face as he leans back in the chair. So, thank you, wonderful.
Gaston takes a deep, almost peaceful breath, I suppose, after his rushed few days getting there, and raises his glass and says, "But to the both of you, my good friends, and your continued good fortune and good deeds." Sips.
You say good fortune, but on average, about a third of the time we get on any form of transportation, it turns into a life or death situation.
Indeed.
So we are trying very hard to avoid organized transportation as best we can.
Perhaps one could say that we are cursed.
We could. Yeah.
But Rudi doesn't say that's a joke. He doesn't smile when he says that. I smile because I smile. But Rudi is like a very melancholic state. He believes that he might be cursed.
But my good friends, you stand here at an undefeated heavyweight boxer and a man in pristine fine trousers.
Thank you.
That is not good luck. If that's not good luck, then what is? No.
It could be worse, truthfully. We have come through our adventures so far alive, and that's not nothing. And we've achieved some modicum of fame and renown through them, which is well worth capitalizing on now before we slip into our dotage. Because I'm looking forward to having a cache of stories when I finally retire to become a librarian in some dusty university. I need stories to tell after dinner, you understand.
Indeed.
I've been meaning to tell you something about it, Tony. I would prefer if you would be the front man of the people that would come to inquire us about our adventures tomorrow. and on this weekend, I have more important matters to tend to. I will be there, of course, but I don't feel as much as talkative as I used to be. And then he takes out a journal that he has from his coat and writes some notes. And as he goes through the pages, you might see something like a pentagram, occult shit,
Yes.
Is that what he's, is that's what he's written in it? Is it? That's the title on the book.
My book of occult shit.
There is a big smile on Tony's face as he says, you would like me to present for both of us any information about our past? You'd like me to field any questions, if at all possible, to recount our tale from my point of view? I'm completely on board with that. I think that sounds wonderful.
You can bathe in all the glory you wish, my dear Freund. But I suppose it would be unavoidable for me to hide in all this situation. I understand that I will be there, but I would appreciate if you would do the front work. You'll be in the front lines of this media battle.
I will try to field the first point of contact, and then additionally tell people that you are engaged in intellectual pursuits and shouldn't be disturbed unless strictly necessary.
On that note, Monsieur Rudi, and Gaston will put a hand on his shoulder. Perhaps it's best if you avoid a member of the serving staff, Philippe, and Tony. I would seek him out. He appears to be a fan of your good selves. Word travels fast, it would seem.
Excellent. Well, I mean, I'm a fan of everyone who's a fan of me. It's policy.
At that moment, the door opens to the outside bar, and a shivering waiting staff steps out, and he says, "Mr. Otto, Mr. Guerrero, Mr. De La Rue, your starters are ready if you wish to return to the dining hall for your meal."
Thank you. Fantastic.
No, I prefer to stay here and keep of my notes. Could you refill me on my Irish coffee, if possible?
Of course, sir. And he goes over to the bar that's sort of against the wall, and you see him sort of in quiet conversation with the barman there. And he turns back to you and he says, "The barman will service you with whatever alcohol you need while you're out here, Mr. Otto." And he motions for Mr. Guerrero and Mr. Delarue to follow if they wish.
Dankeschön.
Mr. Rudi, would you care to take your food outside? I'm sure we could arrange to have it brought to you.
That is acceptable.
And then Gaston will turn to Tony and say, well, what about you, my friend? Shall we all dine under the stars?
I mean, sure, why not? If I'd known I was going to be eating in the cold, I probably wouldn't have had vichyssoise for my starter. But sure, yes.
Unless of course, Monsieur Rudi would care for some time to himself.
Inconsequential. I it's not with myself, but with my notes rather that I wish to spend time with right now.
And recent experience has taught me that if you intend to survive an evening, it's best to stay with your friends.
Yes.
I will certainly raise a glass to that.
Wait, Tony, have you seen any suspicious activity from the staff here?
Nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, they seem breathless with anticipation every time either of us are going to speak about anything, but but that's pretty routine these days.
I wouldn't trust them, just to be sure.
Gaston will turn to the member of staff and say, "My good man, please arrange for our food to be served here, if you would. Do not worry about the bells and whistles. I know it is it's somewhat unconventional."
The waiter looks slightly confused. But you are the guests after all. So he nods his head. Says very well, and he motions to the sort of the bar waiting staff member, who hustles forwards and make sure to re-dust off the seats along the bar. So you'll be sat one next to each other. The place sits one next to each other, sat at the bar, looking out over the mountains. So he sets you up there, makes sure the bar's dusted off, clears it away, and offers the three of you seats along there, looking out into the mountains.
Excellent.
It's 2 minutes later, as you're sat there, that you hear the doors burst open again, and Philippe scurries out with plates all up his arms as he lays down your starters. He's got cutlery in his pockets, which he's very apologetic. I'm sorry, sirs. I tried to do this in one trip. I know it's not what they would do at the Carlton, sirs, but it felt like.
Just don't spill anything on my friend's trousers. That's all.
He sort of carefully puts their nice fork spoons down.
And also, Rudi, he might take some finger food or something, but mainly he will be diving in his notes, and it's not the notes of the tomorrow's speech; it's the notes of his recent findings, the occult shit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. As he starts doing that, and the two of you are eating, the bar waiter comes over with a very nice a bottle of wine and 3 glasses, which he lays out a bottle of red, and he says to you, sirs, messieurs, my Philippe told me that you're honoured guests, and if Philippe says that the 3 of you are honoured guests, then you are honoured guests. This wine is a 1920 vintage, which is 7 years older and 7 years better than the vintages we serve our other guests. So please enjoy this, especially from our cellar. And he pours a glass perfectly for Gaston, a glass perfectly for Rudi, and there's a sudden gust of wind, and he's caught a bit off balance, and he manages to save the wine just in the last minute and pours a perfect glass full into Tony. He sort of you see a bead of sweat drip down the side of his head slightly, even if it's cold, and he sort of gives a thin smile and hurries back to the bar.
Thank you.
So sometimes it's the anticipation that gets you, am I
Yeah,
right,
sometimes. Yeah. Yes, I shall take a sip of the wine and then dig into my soup before it freezes.
You notice with every mouthful it is getting colder.
Rudi, who doesn't seem to be minding the cold right now, as his 2 companions eat, turns to both of them and says, Gaston, we have been looking, both of us, me and Tony and I, history all this time, but we have been missing the most essential parts of history, its secrets, its mysteries, things that are not taught in books or lectured in universities.
As he says this, you see Gaston has pulled a notepad out and is scrawling some bits down. in paper, on paper with a short little pencil. And he says, what which bits specifically do you refer to? History is vast, my friend, and my knowledge of it is poor.
From ancient Mesopotamia to ancient Greece, then Rome, then Byzantium, all these grand civilizations had rituals, had legends that we know so little about. But there are stories, there are written, not exactly the word I'm looking for, not manifestos, manuscripts. Yes, there is knowledge out there to be found. We haven't been looking for, my dear Tony, in the right paths to find it. And most certainly those places with that you will be bathed in glory and we shall give our speeches, we won't find what I am looking for. The truth.
The grassroots, if you will, of history. The humble beginnings.
Yes. Perhaps indeed.
I mean, I'd be tempted to say you might find insights if you look beyond those better known civilizations. Perhaps, given the climate, and I'm not referring to the chill of the evening, perhaps South America or Sub-Saharan Africa might be a place worth exploring.
Yes, perhaps we should book our tickets there and begin our next adventure across the Atlantic.
And we are apparently, in the next couple of days, going to hear from an expert in the future of aviation. So perhaps we should find out if there's anything that we can use to get there more swiftly, given that I suspect
I reckon it won't be a Zeppelin.
Yeah, the market for Zeppelin tickets has probably dried up a little bit in the last few months.
It's a market that's definitely crashed and burned.
Yeah. Yes.
As you are talking and eating, or Rudi picking at his food as much, the bar waiter is sort of keeping an eye, making sure if your glass is empty, topping you up. When your food finishes, you see him knock on the window, and a minute later, Philippe returns, whisks your food away, sees that Rudi's is still more than half full. Are you finished, sir?
Yes. More wine, please. And he doesn't even look at him. He writes some notes and does this motion with his empty glass.
Philippe sort of looks over at the other guy, sort of finger gestures to come over for more wine. Should we leave you the bottles, sir?
Please do. Yes, I'm sure we can pour it for ourselves.
Of course, back then the glasses are a bit smaller, of course, so there's still at least a third of the bottle left between you all. He says, and then Philippe says, there will be just 5 minutes before the main courses, sirs, and then if you still wish to eat outside, I shall bring you your mains. And he sort of takes the plates and vanishes back inside.
Is it Thursday? So it means tomorrow we have our big speech.
You had your speech already. That was today.
We had it already.
Yeah.
So tomorrow we have our actor friend Jean Durand talking about Sigmund Freud.
What is he doing here anyway? I find it rather odd.
Well, it turns out there's a stage and a microphone, so they couldn't keep him off it.
Yes, I wonder if perhaps we should talk with him. I don't want him to be spilling any truths that had been discovered in our last voyage.
Now, at this point, before you go on, I will pull up a guest list. You've been here for a couple of days now, and you know who's here, so it might help you in your discussion for people that are here, if that's helpful. It's going to be in the top left, okay? So there we go. So, of course, in room 1, you have Rudi Otto and Tony Guerrero. In room 2, you've got the Great Bauman. So if you look at the plan, so you're in a double, he's in a single. Room
Who's
3.
the Great Bauman?
Who is you've seen him? He's a man in a very sharp suit. He seems to be, from what you can tell, he's kind of a mentalist, hypnotist, a magician, that kind of character. He's well respected currently. He's been he's the latest big thing. He's around because he's the latest big toy in the area. And then you've got Jean Durand and Nancy Durand, because it turns out that he is married in that short time after he's a good judge of character. In 4, you've got Claire Spelling, who is one of the speakers. She's the botanist. She's in floor. You've got Gaston, of course. Dear Gaston is in the worst room in the house, of course. The one closest to the stairs and the reception and the gusty winds. Next to him, you've got 2 Dutch doctors. They're there. They're not giving presentations, but they're there to sort of suck it all up. Dr. Mats van Beek and Dr. Pieter de Groot. In number 7, you've got Julian Peters, who is also, from what you can tell, a journalist. And then in 8, you've got these twin brothers, Italian brothers, Stefano Esposito and Flavio Esposito, and they're just there for the symposium as well.
Okay.
Tony has shown interest to approach this Great Bauman. Perhaps his studies and actually he inquires Tony and Gaston. He says, "Have you heard anything about this Great Bauman? Is he a conjurer of cheap tricks and illusionist, or is he a man pursuing true arcane arts? What have you heard about him?"
I would say I've only heard that he is he's the recent buzz of society. Quite the talk. Correct me if I'm wrong, Luke.
No, if you say anything that's not, I will correct you. That is good.
But that is my only frame of reference here.
You've seen him wowing. Last night, the 2 of you ate out, of course. I don't know what Gaston did. Don't care what Gaston did. But last night, the 2 of you ate out of that farmhouse. But from what you can hear, he did wow some people with some tricks.
Okay.
But you don't know the details as such. You know, people just like, oh, how
Well,
about
I've been raised in a caravan, as I may have told you, Gaston, and I've seen all sorts of con men and con women perform fake fiascos just to gain some coin and survive. I suppose what I want to see with my own eyes, I will know a fraud if I see one. This Great Bauman, what sort of name is it? What is he doing in an academic meeting such as ours? Suppose if Jean Durand is here.
I mean, I will.
The bar isn't that high.
If John Durand's here, all bets are off.
I believe I will take the man's word that his name is Bauman, but I will reserve my own judgment as to whether he is great.
That's a good one. Oh.
As is your prerogative, my good friend.
Gaston, you know a little bit more about one of the people than others. So you don't know Jean Durand, of course, as anything more than a viewer. You know that Julian Peters works for a Belgian paper called DE and then Standard, which is 2 A's, which is a right-wing paper, more right-wing paper compared to yours. course. Cessoir not being very right wing at all. So.
No, indeed. Gaston will, at the mention of keeping things under wraps, I suppose Gaston would have butted in with a yes. Of course, the fewer people that get hold of such a story from other sources other than the horse, straight from the horse's mouth, if you will. Pardon my choice of language, Monsieur Tony and Rudi. The better. I certainly wouldn't want that Peters fellow getting hold of anything before I do.
Kein Problem, Gaston. You can use whatever language you wish with us. We are not. Our skin is thick.
I have heard many tales of your thick skin aboard the SS Khans and of course the train.
Ah, yes. He becomes reminiscent of that day, severs a bit and drinks more wine, and strokes his beard a bit more.
I'm sorry, my friend. I've brought up.
I believe
awkward memories. My
punching days are way behind me right now.
You say that, but yet you sit here still undefeated. And he raises his glass of wine.
He becomes melancholic again and says, "Father Time eventually defeats us all. So none of us will remain undefeated forever."
Gaston writes this down.
It's
in quotation marks.
It's a beautiful moment when Rudi says that, because as he says that, Gaston, as you're writing, you see behind Rudi the snow starts to slowly fall. Not enough to force you in, but as he's talking about Father Time, that the snow starts to slowly fall and the first few drops land upon his head, the first few flakes, making him look like a tragic character in some regards.
You'll have to forgive Rudi. The last time he spent this close to so many snowbanks, he was unconscious and embedded in one of them. It always brings him out this way.
But that is part of the heroic story that I'm here to write about, my friends. It's moments like that thrill the general public.
I imagine they would.
Myth of Tony and Rudi.
What do you mean myth?
not all myths in my line of work aren't factual, Tony.
You're a good man, Gaston. That's why we trusted you to tell our story and to tell it true. But you must leave some things outside. You know, the serious stuff. And he shows you a sketch that he has made of a bracelet of Mary Magdalene. I don't know how exactly it looked, but he did his best to make it look like it.
It looks exactly how you drew it.
Okay. And he also has like some other stuff, like let me out of the top of my head, like classic occult items of history, like I don't know. If Luke wants to add some occult or might be occult stuff to his world, there he has painted it like these truths should remain away from the public and from speeches and from newspapers. Truths must be investigated.
Gaston pauses for a moment with his pencil at the mention of left away from the public, and judging the seriousness of the conversation, puts it away, I suppose, at that point, and says, "But of course, that is that's the benefit of having a friend write up your story, and pays attention to what's
one that we can trust."
Gaston, could you roll an education for me, please?
Oh, certainly try. Has it got anything to do with driving?
Nope, sadly.
Didn't think so. That's a 2 + 2 is a 4.
Oh, Ben's disembodied head. He's laughing.
It's a good laugh for a disembodied head.
A ghostly laugh. Try as you might, Gaston. You're sort of looking over at the notebook, but it's all gobbledygook to you. It's you have to take Rudi at his word. Whatever Rudi's saying is how it is.
I would do so anyway.
He's the learned man, after all.
Indeed.
At this point, you hear the door bang open again, and Philippe comes out, juggling 3 plates of very hearty-looking. Nowadays, we'd probably call it 3-star rather than 5-star food, but it looks like it will warm you up and fill you up, at least for the first 5 minutes before it gets cold. Mm-hmm. And he sort of puts them in front of you, and he says, "Sirs, please enjoy your mains. We suggest a return inside for desserts because the great Bauman is going to put on a performance of hypnotism and mentalism if you wish to join, and it would be a shame for you all to miss out on that. But you still have 20 minutes or so, sirs, for your main."
Sure. Definitely go in for the performance of the as yet undetermined Bauman.
Tell me, my good man, what were you able to see his performance last night? I hear it was quite the show.
I was, sir. The man conjured like a fiend, sir. Everything he did, I have no answer. He made cards appear. He read minds. He moved.
That draws the attention of Rudi. So he hasn't looked at the waiter up to this point, but right now he turns like that and really listens to what he has to say. But he has a look of disbelief all over his face. Is that what to say?
So at one point he levitated, sir. I'd never seen such a feat before in my life.
Ha! He says it twice, very loudly.
Tell me, where was this levitation performed?
It was performed in the snug, sir. In front of everyone. It was an incredible feat. He levitated, I would say, sir, 3 or 4 inches up off the ground. Oh, sorry, we're Switzerland. Sorry, about 10 or 12 centimeters off the ground, sir.
But of course, with such a talented hypnotist, how do you know that he just didn't hypnotize you into believing that he levitated?
Sir, if he hypnotized the whole room, would we not agree that was an even greater feat?
I would say it's probably equally as likely. No?
Sir, you seem like disbelievers. He sort of stares at Rudi again, who hards twice. I'm sure the great Bauman himself will change even the most stony mind.
I'll be the judge of that.
Okay, I'm going to have a little look
when
around
he leaves
at this point.
When Ben, when he leaves, Rudi takes his wallet out, takes like whatever cash,
Swiss francs are very
dollars,
valuable.
yes.
Very valuable right now.
Whatever money he has, and places on the table and says, "What's the coin that we use? Like the currency?"
It's Swiss francs. Now, and it'll probably be similar. It was the most valuable currency going. It's just suffering a crash at that point, but it's still valuable. For the purposes of this, though, we will say that 1 franc is worth about £2 as is. Whether that's quite historical or not, I'm not certain, but it's not too far, I think. So 1 franc...
because I cannot right now make the exact math what should be the appropriate amount in the 30s for a different currency. But let's say he says
€2. Let's say €2 for 2.5 euros to 1 franc.
Yeah, but with today's standards
Yep.
or with
Using today's so 1 franc is probably worth about €5 now. Let's say.
okay, then he lives like but I don't know, around something like 100 US dollars, let's say, something of a equivalent. It says a bet. Let's place a bet that man, the great Bauman, is a fraud.
That's
Who
we'll say
is
that's
it?
20 francs, 20 Swiss francs.
Okay, let's say 30 francs. That
Oh.
man is a fraud. It says. Does anyone want to meet this bet?
No,
How
I
about
agree
you,
with you.
Gaston? How about you, Gaston? Do you believe in levitation?
I would say that I'm on your side when it comes to levitation and hypnosis and mind control, but I do believe
Very
in
well.
the power of a bet.
He puts the money back in his wallet and says, then what are we waiting for? Let's expose this man.
Can I have a quick? I'm not exactly sure how to describe exactly what I'm looking for because I'm on a sort of balcony, really, aren't I?
You're
Or
in a
at least
balcony in Switzerland.
a veranda.
Yeah.
If I look just down onto the snow outside,
Yes.
I am wondering if. I mean, have I seen what's underneath it, or was it completely snow covered when we first arrived here?
It's all been snow covered since you've been there. You would assume where you are is grassy, from what you can tell, but that's all you can tell. You'd assume from the geography.
All right, then in that case, don't worry about it. I was going to try to replicate his levitation trick. As soon as he did it, I was going to copy him, but I need more than just a cigarette packet to do it, I'm afraid. So we'll just have to expose him the old-fashioned way.
Okay. As you're talking, the mains have been brought out for you to eat. If you're happy to go straight to Bauman, we can go through the food and take a break. Unless there's anything you want to talk about during the mains.
Yes, absolutely. We can take a break while I eat my goulash.
So we'll do that. So we will take a break.
Do we take it?
Goulash is a good choice.
Dear GM,
Yes.
my dear GM, do we take it for granted that Rudi has seen a lot of stuff, a lot of roadmen living in a caravan, a lot of street performers, so he will know a couple of tricks how to spot.
Rudi's seen a lot of things.
I think that makes perfect sense.
Because you've got your +1 in occult, which we've talked about.
That means but I rather he won't be an actual occultist.
No, but that also means you can spot when something isn't the occult, if that makes sense. So
you spent your youth in a sort of carnival and a circus. You'd have seen most of the tricks that people do.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I
have
have in
tricks
mind.
at least. You know the
at least it's cheap,
but the cheap tricks you can spot. Okay, so we'll take a pause there for 5 minutes as you sit and eat your slowly cold food. The snow is starting to fall heavier, and as you eat, the food is being replaced by snowflakes. It does feel like it will be a good time to move inside.
Okay.
But for the four of us, we shall take 5 minutes, and we shall rejoin you as you walk back into the main dining hall.
Perfect.
Thank you, right, everyone. Hang around for 5. Do what you need to do, and we will see you in a few minutes. Bye. We're back, everyone. Good evening. And for those of you that love John immensely, those cat lovers might love him even more because he's just been playing with a cat all break. You didn't get to see it, we did. So, but the cat might make an appearance. I feel it's there. Either John is tickling his own ankles, or the cat is still there. Right. So where were we? Yes, we were. We are the Boys in the Baltic Star. If you just joined us, thank you so much. Please hang around if you so wish. This is a very story-based, chilled-out roleplay tonight. At the moment, things could go horrifically wrong at any minute because it is Tony and Rudi. Horrific things happen to them. But we're here in Le Petit Grand Hotel. It's kind of a hotel. It's got 8 rooms. That's a hotel, isn't it? It's small. It's a lovely little hotel on the edge of Moritz, looking over the mountains. In fact, you know where the dining hall is because it's got the beams. It's got the pointed rafters. The upstairs rooms, of course, 1, 2, 3, 4, have the rafters coming in. You're up there. But if you look at the measurements, half of the dining hall is actually a single layer, which means that also has the beams. So you get these beautiful pine beams stretching up in that dining hall, and it just makes it look very dramatic. The corridor up top to the north, as we look at the picture of the dining hall, actually is open. It's like a balcony. So
Right.
and that's again pine. So you can look down. So it just adds. Oh, there we go. The kitties are here. They're cuddling away.
I have 2 of them. Oh my god.
I can't make descriptions when the cat's there. No one's going to listen to me. So there is this beautiful high balcony running along the top level, which again adds to the reason why those the top floors are more sought after. It's out of the way, and also it's got a beautiful look over a bit of it. And it's just a lovely space. And as you head back into the dining hall, having feasted yourselves on quickly cooling food, you head in and everyone is still sat around in their tables. Hey, anime jugs. I know, right? They were just snuggling together as well, right? Those 2 cats. They'd almost like become one cat. They're like the yin and yang symbol of cats. So cozy. Welcome anyway, Anime Jugs. For first time chat, you're very welcome. If you're just here for the cats, we're all good with that. If we can catch your attention while you're here for the cats, even better. But thank you so much for hanging out for a bit. We are in Switzerland in the 1930s, and we are in a chalet hotel, and we're in a very lovely wooden dining hall that you've left your coats behind. Gaston, are you keeping your blankets?
Yeah. I mean, it's Philippe's. I'm certainly not going to discard it without returning it. But for now, I shall keep hold of it till I'm I've drawn warmth from the inside of the building.
And of course, Philippe, who sees you wearing it, because you rolled so well to him, he's happy for you to have it as long as you want. You know, as long as you leave it somewhere before you go to bed, he seems perfectly happy. So you go through the hall and you open up into the dining hall, and some people turn around as you come in, and there are faces you recognise. So all the faces on that list, the people that stay in here, are in that room, dotted around. But of course, as I said before, there are some faces you don't recognise, like day diners that have come in to eat the food. It's good food. Surroundings are pretty. A few pass you as you go in. They're heading out to the outside bar for a smoke outside. You can smoke inside, of course, but an outside smoke and a schnapps or a mulled wine out on the bar. And you walk in with the Christmas tree in the corner, the decorations above you, running along that wooden balustrade. You've got decorations in, the holly there, the mistletoe hanging, that roaring fire at the far end. Do you wish to head back to your table, or what would you wish to do? Your table is in front of the fire, of course.
Oh, I think the table feels like the place to go, yes.
Gaston will very much follow the other 2 at this point. And make a loud noise.
We will follow, but not stealthily.
Yeah.
As Gaston, roll a for that. Can you roll an agility check, please?
Yeah, of course. I feel as though something was knocked over. That's a 5 plus 4 is a 9.
Something was knocked over, but not by you. Rudi and Tony both roll an agility check, please.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Yep.
That feels totally unfair.
Real life filters into the game.
That's a five.
ace.
5 plus 1 is a 6 for me.
Ace plus 2 is a 3 total.
Oh no. So Gaston, as he's walking through, sort of he leads the way, zigzagging between. There's space between the tables, but it's not huge amounts. He one of the people there, Dr. Mats Van Beek, he and his colleague are sat at a table dining. He sort of shuffles back to make a bit more space to sort of do the old unbutton the trousers to let a bit more space in kind of thing. And as he does, Gaston manages to avoid. I nearly dropped my papers. I've got a roll now. Avoid the chair as he goes. But as he does, he sort of causes Tony to overreact, and he sort of clatters into the chair a little bit, causing Dr. Van Beek's chair to spin a little bit. And as the chair sort of jerks out, it catches Rudi in the shin, and Rudi collapses to his knees in the middle of the dining hall at the pain.
Oh no.
Monsieur Rudi, my apologies. Here, please let me help you.
That was my bad knee.
And he'll turn to the man in the chair and say, "You imbecile! Don't you know who this is?"
Dr. Mats Van Beek looks at you, Gaston, and narrows his eyes, and he's like, "I know exactly who he is. I have no idea who you are, young man."
Well, all the better for me then. And he'll turn around and start helping Rudi up. He'll put the hood up on his fur coat as he does so.
Dr. Van Beek turns to you, Rudi, and he says, "I'm terribly, terribly sorry. Here, let me help you up." And he stands up to help you to your feet if you so wish.
I hope I won't be needing to use a cane once again after this.
He sort of tries to help you up and towards the table. As he does that, Dr. de Groot turns to you, Tony, and he says, "A splendid lecture today, Monsieur Guerrero. I was captivated from the first minute to the last. Is it true? Everything you said truly happened?"
Absolutely every word of it was true.
Even the bits you made up?
I do nothing but make up the truth.
If half of what you said was true, the adventures that you and Monsieur Otto have been on are staggering and also quite frightening. Myself and my colleague, we prefer the lab, we prefer the study, we prefer to shy away from such adventure. But the two of you truly are a fascinating pair.
You truly value the truth, whether that be of scientific or academic nature. You would go out in the field. There is a lot missing. You're behind a desk all the time. And who might you be?
My name is Dr. Pieter de Groot, and my friend here, whose chair you tripped over, who's desperately trying to help you up, is Dr. Mats Van Beek. We're here for the week to watch the symposium, to listen to the finest minds in Europe share their knowledge. And today was truly special for both of us.
Well, I'm glad we were able to entertain you and inform you.
No, please. The two of us have just cracked open this very special, bottle of schnapps. We would be. We don't expect you, of course, to sit with us and drink, but if you would like a glass each to take to the table, the two of you, we would be honoured.
Especially
Depends where you are sitting. I would like to sit as in the front as possible. I would like to have a good eye on the show.
Okay, so I will. You can see the dining room rectangle. Yeah, John, you can see where the dining room is. I will try and ping up. I'll tell you what I'll do. Let's try and create a little image that I can use as a ping. Hang on.
Rudi demands to be sitting as close to the stage as possible and explains to his colleagues that trust nothing that you see inside. Everything will be part of the trick. Especially the young, beautiful women. If the great Bauman has any assistants, do not allow your eyes to be staring long to them. They are part of the misdirection.
Wishful thinking from Mr. Otto for the beautiful young women. Right. So can you see the map, John, Ben, and Ewan?
Yes.
Can you see
a beard?
You can see the beard is our point of reference for now. quite touchingly.
Is the beard where Ben is, or is
the beard is definitely where Ben is? Yeah. And
where
Anime
the
Jugs,
performances?
the Baltic Star is going to definitely serve that dish. I wish I knew. I'm so uncultured. I wish I knew what that. If you could describe the dish, I might make it salty something. I would happily make it over Christmas. It sounds. I feel like we should have it as a Baltic Star meal.
I think it's a bright pink beetroot based.
I was like borscht, like Polish borscht.
Yeah, I think I may be way off.
I like your thinking. Okay, so the beard is where your table was. Okay, so right next to the wall is where the fire was. So to your right is where the roaring fire. You are like in the perfect fire seat. The two that you crashed over were next to you here. So they were in the next table. It was a smaller. You were in a like a round table. They were in a smaller like rectangular table. There are tables. There's a bit of gap for the kitchen, of course, but there's a few tables along the window. Of course, they're very pretty windows looking out, of course. One here overlooking the window to the outside bar, the one that got knocked on, if you remember when you were out there. So there's a table by there. Then you've got another table in the middle. You've got a couple of tables along this wall. The place where any performance would take place is actually kind of here. And this is, so pretty much you would be in the front row, Rudi. That sort of area is where it's got quite a nice surround. There's a lot of greenery there. It's quite a pretty space, and that seems to be an area that is clear. So you can sit in your table, and Van Beek and de Groot would also be at the front. So they will say to you, Monsieur Otto, if you mean the great Bauman, they sort of keep their voice low because he's in the room. Last night he performed here, and they point forward to where the beard is. He performed here, so I would assume the same tonight. So you and Mr. Guerrero and he sort of motions your friend are in perfect position. You'll see every wave of his hand. You'll see the whites of his eyes, the twitch of his toes.
I keep imagining the beard to be a stage now. Exit beard left, pursued by bear.
All the world, all the beards are stage.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, do go on.
Tell me, you're both doctors. Do you believe in the arcane?
Could you roll for me an education, please, Rudi?
Straight education without anything else.
You can add your occult because
Of
that's why
course, I
you've
have
got
my
it.
gold.
You've got-
That's a
So-
6 plus 4, total of 10. That's my forte.
I nearly gave you a plus one for Yakult by mistake, just in case you needed any yogurt at any point. But
The probiotics expert.
probiotics, good for the gut. They sort of both of them look up at you, and de Groot says, "I'm more of a believer than my colleague, Dr. Van Beek, is not so That said, his trickery last night was truly good, and we were sat close. And while, of course, magic is frippery for the masses, there were 2 or 3 tricks that we could not explain.
Such as the levitation, perhaps?
Oh, the levitation. Everyone knows how you do the levitation. That was very much one for the gasping masses, and in his eyes you could tell that that's what it was for.
Then which tricks are you referring, or would you like us to see them first and discuss them later, Doctor?
De Groot smiles and he says, and he sort of stares at you in the eyes, Rudi, and he says, the way the man seems to read into a person's soul, I cannot explain. It feels like the rest of his tricks are window dressing for the main event.
Interessant, sehr interessant. Let's see.
May I ask, what are you doctors of?
The Groot sort of laughs at it a little bit, and he says, "Ha! What are we not doctors of? We are biologists. We are doctors of anatomy. We are chemists, physicists. The one thing we are not, sadly, is doctors of love." We have. It feels that yet again he sort of rolls his eyes at Van Beek. We are stuck at a table, just the two of us, with no ladies approaching us all evening.
Can Gaston or chip in at that moment, being the Frenchman in the room? Say, well, perhaps I can help with such a situation, and he'll turn to Van Beek specifically and say, my apologies for my outburst earlier. I was merely concerned for my dear friend, Monsieur Rudi. I believe at least we have some common ground in the skepticism of the great Van Beek. Sorry.
That's you. You've heard of me. You've heard of me.
The great barman. I believe
You
at least
hand
we
out
have
the
some
phrase
common...
"great" with far too much alacrity.
Just throws
At
it
least
around.
we have some common ground there. I do offer my apologies.
Van Beek stares at you and his eyes narrow again. So what did you say? What did you say your name is, young man?
I am Gaston Delarue.
Gaston Delarue. Were you on the SS can?
No, I was not.
Were you on the Vienna Express?
Once again, I was not.
Were you on the horse being chased across the desert on your race to Casablanca?
No, do go on.
Well, my dear, what did you say your name was again?
Gaston.
And what did you say your question was again, Gaston?
There was no question. merely Merely my apologies for my outburst earlier over the concern of my dear friend.
Oh, it's totally forgotten, as is your name. It's just a joy to be in the presence of two such luminary characters. I'm sure you count your blessings every minute you're sat at a table with them.
He'll grit his teeth at the mention of the forgotten name, and as he goes on to the counting of the blessings, he'll say yes. But of course, who would not be in the company of such fine gentlemen?
Well, my dear Gerard, or whatever your name is, I hope you enjoy your evening with two such men. And he says, would you also like a drink? Well, I've offered your friends drinks. Would you like one also?
My dear doctor, no, I care not for such a vintage.
He says, "Ah, don't worry. I was just going to ask for some cheap plonk for you."
Gaston pulls out his
Nonsense.
notebook,
Johnny,
writes something down quickly.
Rudy zal intervene and says, nonsense. Gaston de la Rue shall be having whatever we're having. If you're planning to offer us anything, you must serve him as well.
Roll your charisma, please. Which has
My
gone down a little
only
because of all your
has
time.
gone down a little. The dark version of Rudy has 4 plus 3. It's a kind of success.
The dark version.
The dark Rudy.
Van Beek, that's a success, but with outcomes, I guess. Van Beek sort of frowns at you. You've lost his friendliness some point, but he hands you the rest of the schnapps, but a slightly less friendly way. He says, "Please take the rest of our bottle over to your table and enjoy the rest of your evening." And he and De Groot turn back to each other and go back to drinking what they're drinking, picking a board of cheese, and awaiting the great Bowman, we would guess.
Well, we can sit with our bottle and pour ourselves a couple of drinks, and I'm going to lean over, sort of not exactly too subtly, but just lower my voice a little bit as I get my head reasonably close to the other two at the table, and I'm going to say, so this will be interesting. We're all convinced, are we not, that this man is purely a charlatan?
Indeed.
I'm intrigued with the only trick that you cannot fake is truly entering the thoughts of another person, like mentalists do. And if that is the one that is his true main dish, I would very, very much like to welcome him inside my mind and see that he will truly find. If
I would
he
be interested
dare.
to see that as well. He could also try the same with me, though there's not that much room in my mind, so he might find it a bit restricted.
In any case, Rudi takes out his notepad of the occult. Perhaps there will be some notes to be taken here.
As the three of you sat at the table and settling down, you sort of hear a hush. As you look around, you see the guests you recognise, and everyone is here. It is the big. It's a big evening. You know, every evening during this week is a big evening, and everyone on that list is sat around, pretty much in the pairs and sets that they are with. No one is bonding too much at this moment. Jean and Nancy are sat in that sort of the corner by the outside bar by that window.
Maybe we will shall, buy them the next drink and give them a nod with our drink.
If you'd like to
And
do
to
that,
Jean.
we can call over. So if you want, you can call Philippe if you wish, if that's what you wish, Rudi.
Yeah, I won't be joining them in their table, but just like buy them the next round to a waiter, and I will do the nod from a distance,
Philippe smiles and says, "Yes, sir. What sort of drink would you like me to order for the honeymooning couple?"
Just buy them the next round of whatever they're having.
Of course, sir. Of course, sir. And you sort of see him scurry off to the kitchen. Then a barely 30 seconds later, he scurries back with a bottle, which he placed on the table and motions over to you. And Jean looks over at the two of you. He's spotted you around, of course, and he knows you're there. And he sort of gives you an awkward smile and raises his glass to the two of you.
Is another friend of yours? Gaston will look at both Tony and Rudi.
We've met him in the latest adventure we had.
Intriguing. A good man?
Was actually the spouse of Camille. He mentions her last name. I can't remember it right now.
Moulin.
Yeah. Moulin. So he was involved in this whole situation, but apparently he was innocent.
Gaston pulls out his notepad and starts furiously writing down. This is, of course, this is okay for me to share.
Up to this point, yes. These are details of the truth surrounding the bracelet that must remain hidden from the public.
What bracelet, my good friend?
Good man, Bellavo, good man.
So as everyone's sort of settling down, you see the man who's clearly the great bowman. You've been described, and you haven't spoken to him yourself, but he's a very tall, thin man in a very nicely turned out suit. And you see that he's got up and he's vanished off a couple of minutes before. He's just gone, right? And then
is that trick one?
Just vanished. Just vanished. He's gone out the door towards the snug into the corridor, and then a minute or so later, the owner of the hotel, whose name I had very close to me and that's gone missing, Alexander Fricker, F-I-C-K-E-R, Alexander Fricker, the manager and owner, steps up to the beard, as it is, and he sort of rubs his hands together and claps for a bit of sort of a calm silence. He said, he's a very professional looking man. He's got a very nice suit on with a pocket watch into his waistcoat pockets, which he sort of reaches in and he checks the time. He doesn't need to tap it, of course, because it's Swiss. It's perfect. It's never going to go wrong. Flicks over, looks at it, puts it back in, and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, it is time. We've reached that point of the evening again, where our esteemed guest, the great bowman, is going to perform more feats of magic and mysticism beyond the imagination. So please, all of you, can you give a great round of applause for," and he points towards the doorway, "the great bowman."
Rudi does this kind of clap.
Oh, the shade. It's either shade or jazz, one of the two.
Actually, I cannot clap because one more shot at the kiddies over there. I have two of them on my lap and they're both sleeping. And I have to hold them because I'm going to fall. Yes, one of my hands is trapped.
Give chat what they want.
Yes. That's a very lovely thing, having sleepy cats on you.
Mm. And two of them, yeah, that's amazing.
Nice.
So there is
Uh,
a good applause around, especially from the Groot, of course, who is more into it, and the Beak's a bit quieter. But there's a lot of applause. How about the three of you? So Rudy's clicking.
Yes, and then I turn to my notes. I want to keep notes of everything, and I also have a keen eye out of everything I've learned from my carnival, my circus days or whatever. All the tricks where the things can be hidden, where things can be, everything. Oh, cats are falling. Cats are falling.
I'm
Okay.
adopting a gentle smile, but yes, keeping my eyes open, so to speak.
Gaston will very much give her a round of applause, but a very understated one. There's no exuberance.
Right, now bear with me a second. I'm just writing Anime Jugs' 2 food types down, so I can look it up tomorrow and then cook them both. There, right, okay. And as people applause, the great Bauman bursts his way out of the door he just went into a minute ago. He's put a cloak on. He's managed to get a cloak from the snug. And he strides out, looking very confident, actually. And he opens his arms to the applause. And he says, ladies and gentlemen of Europe, welcome to tonight's show with myself, the great Bauman. I shall astound you. I shall surprise you. And I shall do things that you cannot explain. And there's more applause, some whooping almost from some of the day visitors that are just absolutely excited that they've just turned up on a day where the great Bauman is performing.
Such uncouth behaviour.
Yes.
Right. First up, the great Bauman walks around. He says, first of all, it's lovely to see some new faces in this evening. And he points over to a random that you don't know, along the wall near where he is, and he says, he sort of puts his fingers to his forehead, and he says, "What's your first name?" And it's a man, and he says, "My name is Anders." And he says, "Anders, you're from Copenhagen, right?" And the man goes, "Oh, how did you know?" And he says, I am the great Bauman. I know it all." And everyone's, "Whoa!"
On the meanwhile, Rudi whispers to his two colleagues, obviously, that man is part of the trick.
Or he wrote down in the visitor book where he's from.
Gaston nods and
That's a good
raises his
guess,
glass.
Tony. That's a very, very good guess, Tony.
The great Bauman hears talking from your table, and he rounds to the three of you, and he points at Gaston, and he says, my dear man, could you please, I'm trying to think of the words in the thingy. Could you please regale me with a short tale of your life, any tale you wish, and I shall tell great mysteries from the tale.
Well, my dear man, I can't help but be brought back to the moment shortly after I met my dear friends here, Monsieur Tony and Monsieur Rudi. A soiree in Paris, at which the famous Coco Chanel, who was brought to tears by the mere description of the excellence of Monsieur Tony's trousers, and he'll gesture to the general area. Can you believe it? She wept, my good man. But fear not, she was brought back to joy through tales of Monsieur Rudi's boxing record, of which I'm sure you're already aware.
The great Bauman stops and he looks at the three of you and he holds his hands and he says, and he looks at the crowd and he pauses and he says, "Now some would say, I've never met this man before. Is that correct, Mr. Otto?"
We have not made an acquaintance between you and I, no.
And he says, "Now, looking at your swarthy figure and looking at your listening to your friend, I believe that although I believe your professional record would be 9 victories to no defeats, but I feel that you yourself would say it is 11 victories to no defeats." And again, there's applause from around the room.
I don't applause at all. Rudi is not impressed. He has been saying it so many times.
It is well-known knowledge.
It's almost impossible to have met him and not know this information.
Yes.
There's applause.
Where is it? Where is it? I need to redeem it as well.
He is invincible.
He's invincible. You see him, he walks around the room, giving that same. He asks a few more people, very much, get the group hug in. I'll drink to that. Asking the same sort of very soft questions to people, things that you could probably know by reading,
I am invincible!
reading stuff about people, from talking to people, from reading guest books and things. But people are quite, it's a warm-uppy bit. People are into it.
As he does, Gaston will turn to the two of them and will say, "My apologies, friends. That wasn't well thought through. Clearly, that was information that is available to the vast majority of people."
I'll do a beard for Ben. I just have to move it off we know where everyone is. I can move the beard off the
Yep.
map. Go on, that's good. It's because Ben normally has more stubble, but he has to shave every 6 weeks, so we have to cover.
Yeah, every 6 weeks I shave it all off.
We have to cover his naked face with a beard, so that we feel more comfortable. There we go. It's got so much use to this beard. And then the great bowman nods to a couple of the waiters, and they blow a few candles, they snuff a few candles out, and it goes a bit darker. And he's like, Anime Jugs is fitting in straight away.
It's true. It's all true.
You're absolutely right. And he sort of throws his hands and he says, "Now, ladies and gentlemen, that was just the starter. Now, I wish to entertain you with some feats of a mysterious art form. Some would call it the art form of the occult itself. For I am going to reach into people's minds and control their words and actions and thoughts. I will hypnotize some people here tonight using the power of my strong mind." And he sort of stares, that daring to catch people in the eyes as he passes around. Are the three of you staring him out? Are you looking away? How are you going to go about it?
I'm going to meet his eyes. I'm actually curious. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, so I'm also going to pay a certain amount of attention to anything he's doing with his hands, particularly if they go anywhere near his pockets.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as for the staring part, Rudi is used to staring off heavyweights, heavyweight boxers, so he won't have any problem staring at his eyes. And he does have a very antagonistic look when he does, like he demands, challenges him with his look,
Yes.
Gaston, at the mention of occult, has turned his gaze to Rudi and brought out his pen and paper and started writing down. Monsieur Rudi met the man's steely gaze with his own of equal measure, as if to challenge the very essence of his performance.
Amazing.
Now, Rudi, could you please roll a charisma plus occult, please?
Oh, charisma plus occult. Wow, that's
Yeah,
a
man.
great combo.
It's a good combo. Isn't it?
Yeah.
3 to a total of 7 partial success.
Um, you gaze back into his eyes. We've said he's very tall. He's very slim. He's the only person in the room that can challenge Gaston in his sort of slenderness. Very gaunt, very pale skinned, very very dark eyes, like two dark pools. Yeah, Benny's just a beard. He's left his best part behind, like a reverse shave. um, he's got two. His eyes are very dark. You almost get sort of lost in them for a minute, but you pull yourself back. There is something about the eyes, and we know your background in the circuses and that. You know a con man, and you know his mind stuff earlier was softball. It was things that you could probably do. You know, yes,
Mm.
it's a chalet in 1930s Saint Moritz. It's all pine. So picture pine, the smell of cherry tobacco, the food, the pine. There's Christmas decorations. There's a roaring fire, so you're getting that heat and the smell. You got a big cuckoo clock, of course, it's Switzerland. And striding around in the gap between these tables in the 30s is the Great Bauman. I need to move Ben back to his position. He's reappeared. That's magic. That's Bauman that did that. Bauman made Ben disappear. He's legit. I told you, he's legit. He's back. Um, and so you almost catch yourself in the eye because you can tell that everything he did was softball until this point where you almost read something in his mind. You almost sense that he's caught you in his eyes, but you tear yourself away. If that makes sense. Lollygaggers, thank you for joining us. We're going to
Hey,
take a pause because
Raiders.
that's a big raid. Thank you. And we do love the Lollygaggers.
Oh,
Thank you for joining us. It is our latest episode of Tony and Rudi. It's the first in what will be a series. I hope you're doing well. I hope your stream is amazing. We're in 1937. We're in a chalet in a very snowy December Saint Moritz. Our heroes, Tony and Rudi, are at a symposium telling people about their adventures. And they've got their friend Gaston, who is working for a newspaper. And they are there in Le Petit Grand Hotel. It is pine, it is a roaring fire, Christmas decorations. You've got the holly, you've got the mistletoe. And at the moment, in the dining hall, as they've just finished eating, the great Bauman, a mentalist, a hypnotist, has taken the floor, and he's going to try and do some tricks and mind tricks on people. Rudi has spent 6 months becoming obsessed with the occult, so he's not buying it for a minute. Tony is open to suggestion, but is playing hardball with the facts. And Gaston is just trying to get a good story. So that's where we're at now. I hope some of you might hang around, but if not, we understand because a lot of you have been on the stream before. And this is very much a change of vibe from a combat-filled endeavour. This is like the opposite of a combat-filled endeavour. But I'm glad you guys had a great time. Hi, Baitor, Melazera, Lolamongati, and the Gaggers. Thank you so much. And it's always an absolute joy to have you join us for a few minutes. We appreciate you.
Indeed.
A lot, and when I can pop into you guys when I'm not streaming, I do enjoy your work as well. So thank you. It's a good combination, us and you. We love you guys, and it's really cool stuff. So thank you so much. And we've got John, who's Rudi. He's brilliant tonight. So here we go. Where are we at? So as you pull yourself away from the Great Bauman's dark eyes, you catch a smile across his lips, and he sort of pauses at you, Rudi. And he says, "You strike me as a man of who looks beyond this mortal realm, sir."
No response. I keep the stare down.
He gets a little bit awkward at that point, and he says, "Interesting. I hope you can learn something this evening of the powers of hypnotism. And then he turns away quickly, and he says, "Yes, scribble, scribble, scribble." And he turns back to the room, and he says, "Okay, who shall I hypnotize first?" And he looks around the room, and he says, "I need a spirit that is willing, a mind that is weak, not a mind that's weak. I need a spirit that is willing." And a mind that is ready to take on such an endeavor. For you will be taken to a whole new plane of understanding.
But why, great Bauman, have you taken your eyes away from me? I am both willing and open-minded for such an endeavor. And I have the most intimidating stare that I can possibly master at the moment.
There you go, Bauman. You've got a volunteer.
Oh,
Rudi, please roll we could go a straight charisma at this point, please.
Straight charisma. It's a 3 + 3, 6.
That was a success, Mel is 0, by the way. 6. He sort of smiles at you and he says, Mr. Rudi Otto, a curator, a treasure hunter and adventurer, a man with the perfect boxing record, who saved the day on the Vienna Express, who saved the day once again on the SS Cannes, who grew up among the circus folk. I will tell you this, my dear greying friends. I will come to you at the end. And he smiles. But first, we must warm up, of course, to the main event. Do you not agree?
Yes, a prelim fight is always best served before the main event.
Exactly.
Carry on.
And at that point, Nancy Durand stands up and she says, "Oh, pick me, I want to be hypnotized." Because it appears that Jean Durand really knows how to pick them. And the great Palmer goes, "Excellent, Mrs. Durand, congratulations on your wedding." And of course, there's a round of applause from everyone. The honeymoon couple. And he sort of says, Of course, I did not read her mind for that. We all know that." And everyone laughs. Spez bring back the beer for Ben. Important. You're doing God's work there, Sparrow. Good work. And he says, come to me, Mrs. Durand. Come closer. And she approaches. And he looks her up and down. And he says, "Are you willing to subjugate your mind to the power of the great Bauman?" And she's sort of nervous. She was really cheery, but she looked in his eyes and she gets a bit nervous, and then she sort of nods. She sort of looks around. She's up there now. She can't bottle it, so she nods. And he says, "In which case, I need you to look into my eyes. Look deep into my eyes. They are like two dark pits. You need to lose your mind into my eyes. When I blink, you blink. When I stare, you stare. Now." And he sort of stands there, staring for like 30 seconds, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Slowly muttering. And when she sort of stands quite still. And then he says, "I am now going to whisper ancient incantations into your ear to open your mind to the hypnosis." And he leans in, and you sort of see him lean into the ear and sort of mumble some sort of incantations or something. He's just sort of mumbling. She sort of stands up. So, "Yes, Gaston, you're gasping."
No, not at all.
He's just gasping at the performance.
I'm so bought into this. Gaston turns to the other two and he says, I've seen such performances given on the street of Paris, but it wasn't ancient incantations that were being whispered." Winks at them both.
And he leans
Do
back.
go on, Luke.
And he leans back and he says, "My dear Mrs. Durant, every time and he looks over at your table and he sort of allows himself a smirk. He says, or Mr. Otto mentions your first name, you will laugh and not be able to stop laughing until your name is said once more. So if I or Mr. Otto say your first name, you will laugh until we say your name once more. Now, stare into my eyes. When I blink 3 times, you shall awaken." And he blinks once, twice, and become being poetic, thrice. And her shoulders lower a little at this point. And she sort of she starts looking around a bit. And the great bowman turns to the crowd and he says, "Our dear Madame Durand has been hypnotized. She is under my spell." And then he looks over to your table. "Mr. Otto, would you like to do the honors or shall I?"
Perhaps you should begin this the spell, this incantation of yours.
He says, "Very well. So, how do you feel, Nancy?" And almost instantaneously, Nancy starts laughing. And it goes on. 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and there's a mix of sort of applause from the audience and some gasping and a bit of laughing too, because laughter is a great therapy, of course. Laughter is the great medicine. When one person laughs, people laugh.
Rudi takes a look at Jean, her husband. Is he worried? Is he clapping?
Jean is clapping like a penguin, like a seal,
Okay.
like the going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rudi, in the commotion, whispers to his friend, a wife of a stage actor. There's nothing to be impressed here. Is she pretty, by the way? Is Nancy pretty?
She is staggeringly beautiful. Like a 1930s. She is
like
the wife
he turns to Ton.
actor.
Yes. He turns to Gaston and he nods him with his elbow and says, "What did I tell you about the beauty on the stage? The classic Miss Lead. She's obviously part of the thing. I'm not gonna say her name, even she's gonna burst and pee herself on stage." And then he takes a sip and seriously, he's not gonna say her name.
Gaston chuckles for a little bit and then turns back to Rudi and just says, "Well, I must say that the company that the two of you bring upon me is it's quite wonderful." The laughing is off-putting.
The great bowman, as she's still laughing and the clapping slows down. And he says, "Look back to me, Madame Durand. Nancy." And within like half a second, she stops laughing, just like that, and everyone starts clapping again. Woo!
What's her expression when she stops laughing, Luke? If I may ask.
She goes quite straight-faced, and then
concerned,
sort of
or
she like clutches her mouth, but she's thrilled. She's sort of thrilled. She's not too concerned at this point.
Okay.
From what you can tell. And he says, "But Nancy is not the only person I'm hypnotizing." And when he says Nancy, there's a pause, and she starts laughing again. He says, "Sorry. Nancy, go and sit down." And she stops, and she goes, "Sit down." More applause. Nancy, no, not Nancy. Madame Durand is not the only person I'm going to hypnotize tonight. Now let me choose another willing mind. For the closed minds do not allow hypnosis in. Only the open minds are welcoming. And he looks around and he says, Dr. de Groot, come and join me on stage.
Ah, yes.
Gaston whispers over to the two of them. I would have preferred Van Beck get his comeuppance, but
And
Which of the
Groot
two
is
is
apparently the one who's more
be.
willing to believe.
Yeah, de Groot's the believer.
Okay. Okay.
And he pulls him up on stage. And he says, my dear sir, I know you are a doctor. I know your name is Dr. Peter de Groot. That is not a surprise. That is not a mystery. I have not used my powers. And everyone laughs and claps. They've all bought in. He says, now, the serious business, my dear sir. Look into my deep pool of eyes. Listen to my words. Blink when I blink, stare when I stare. And that whole same process happens again. And he leans in and he whispers some sort of incantations into his ear.
Can we hear those incantations? Does Rudy hear them because he's in front stage?
Roll your agility.
Agility. Ooh,
It's agility
that is-
because it's the use of body and movement and things, I guess. Education, because you're not
Plus
a lip
plus a
reader or
cult.
anything. No,
maybe
no,
plus
no.
occult.
No,
Oh.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you plus. I'll give you plus occult. I'll give you plus occult because you would know the words. You'd know keywords to look for.
Okay, that's a poor roll. That's an ace once again. So a total of no, it's less than 7. So yeah, it's like
You feel confident
4.
that you feel confident that you would know what you were wanted to listen to, but you just can't make it
Mm.
out from where you are. His incantations are very quiet and into the ear.
Very well.
When he finishes, he says, Dr. de Groot, when I release you from my eyes, you will, and he sort of pauses and he stares over at your table. You will hunt down evil like a pig hunts down truffles. You will hunt down evil like a pig hunts down truffles. And he sort of stares at him some more. And then he blinks 3 times. And the Groot sort of pauses and his shoulder slump. And then without a word, the Groot walks over to an unknown couple in the corner of the room.
Mm-hmm.
And he points at the man. And he says, this man is a thief. And like 2 waiters jump on the guy. And they pull him up. And they look in his pockets and he's got like wallets that aren't his.
Oh.
And the manager, of course, old Fricker, he takes the wallets out. And he says, get this man out of here and take him to the police. And the waiters hoik him out and drag him out with his screaming wife following behind. And the bowman stares you down, Rudi.
Who stares me?
Bowman stares you down.
Okay.
Almost like challenging you to question.
No problem with being stared on by other men. Again, I've been stared on by killers of the heavyweight division of boxing.
Mm.
No problem.
Can I ask, what does Fricka do after that? Is he handing out wallets, or is he?
He looks through the wallets and he looks at the cards and he does hand them out to guests. He hands one back to Stefano Esposito and one back to Julian Peters, and it appears that they are their wallets.
Okay. That is all.
That's what.
Do go on.
The great Bowman pauses once more. He says, "And now," he says, "there's a man here that's stared me down all evening, but this man thinks this man I don't think is a believer in my power." And from like some of the people that aren't staying here, some of like the hangers on, you get some boos. They don't know who you are. They don't know you're the great Rudi Otto. The rest of the crowd would not dare do it. But you get some boos. And he's like, no. This man was not here last night when he saw the great Baumann perform incredible feats, such as my levitation. And you hear a snigger from one of the waiters. But to go directly to him would be too obvious. Instead, I wish to target him through another person. Mr. Delarue, would you take to the stage?
Oh, damn it. Before we get too far along, do I recognise the service staff that sniggered?
It was the one that told you outside earlier about the tricks. Because
Okay.
Philippe's a believer because he told you about it, but the one outside was not a believer. In a couple of the easier tricks and things. So.
Would we have caught a name?
No, but you would know him if you'd like a name.
Yes,
It's
please.
Henri.
Okay, perfect. And I will stand up and look at my two companions. Shrug.
The great Bauman looks at you, Tony. He says, "Mr. Guerrero, are you disappointed I have not chosen you?"
No, I'm actually interested to watch.
The great Bauman nods at you, and he calls up Gaston. He says, "Mr. Delarue, please stand in front of me."
I will stand in front of him.
And he says, "Okay. Stare into my dark, cool eyes."
But my dear man, I've only just met you. And he stares into his eyes.
He gets to laugh from the Rudi and Tony table.
That's the pity laugh.
That's literally that laugh. I could see like, like,
Oh, that's a good one. I said it, Tony. Oh, cheers, Tony.
you two have channeled your Statler and Waldorf tonight.
Yeah. Yes, rubbish. Get him off.
Gaston, could you please roll your... It's really hard to call this one. I'm going to go for a charisma, please.
Indeed. Nothing to do with driving, I think.
And we're going to make it an opposed roll. So just
Okay.
take your charisma plus thing.
So 4 on the dice, plus a 3 is a 7.
Okay. Sadly for you, Bauman has beaten you. Because Bauman has certain very high stats.
Well, he's great.
He is great.
Apparently.
As he stares at you, you almost feel yourself getting caught in his eyes. These eyes are, to start with, they just look like two black circles. But the more you look at them, it appears like the black has different shades. And the shades have different shapes. And there's depths to it. And you start to notice that the blackness of the eye and the blackness of the pupils are different black. And the blackness of the iris and changes from the blackness on the outside of the iris to the blackness on the inside. And it almost seems to darken from the outside of the iris to the inside of the iris into the pupil. And before you can stop yourself, you feel yourself drifting into the inside of the pupil. And as your eyes fall into the inside of the pupil, it almost feels like the pupil becomes a tunnel because the blackness of the pupil seems to drift down deep into his eye. And there's a point where you do actually get fuzzy around the edge of your vision. And try as you might, you would not be able to pull your eyes away at this point. There are moments when he blinks where you get pulled back up out of that tunnel again, but that's why he tells people blink when I blink, to try and hold that hold. And after 20 seconds or so, and you're deep in the juju, he looks out to the crowd and says to the crowd, "Now, my dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to whisper my incantations into Gaston's ear." And you sort of hear it almost as if you're outside your body, like 1,000 miles away, being broadcast. You hear it.
Rudi will try to hear them once again if possible. He will like move closer to the stage, like he doesn't really care about like he will move his chair, or maybe he will get up from his chair and walk closer to the stage, because now he knows. Actually, he tells Tony, now we know that the one on stage we can trust. So he might actually move closer to the stage, like, you know, openly, like no fucks given, you know.
Some observation that's a good. I like it.
Okay. Yep.
Also noting, if I mean, I may be making things worse here, but if Gaston has the ability to do so, he will be repeating the words in his head as if to try and remember them. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Rudi, could you please roll an agility plus occult?
Damn it, it's again an ace.
Oh,
Who can redeem a boon?
so many.
Redeem,
Yeah, get rid of
redeem a
that.
boon. Someone redeem a boon. Give me that reroll.
So Rudi does not hear it, but of course, because we're role playing, we will hear it. Because I'm not going to just whisper it to Gaston, because Gaston will be able to share it to you later. Actually, are you, Rudi, Tony? You could be honest with me. Stick your fingers in your ears, or turn the
Sure.
turn the sound off for a second. We're streaming. Turn the sound off.
Oh,
You can
what?
do it.
Let's
We can
do
do
This
it.
is unheard of,
We
Luke.
can do it, right? We can do it, right?
Ooh.
Yep.
Right.
I can kill my sound for a couple of sec.
It's
Good
a fair
stuff.
play, though.
Let's make the use of the stuff we've got, right? So only Gaston and our viewers can hear it.
Do you mind if I write it down, Luke? Am I, or would you rather I rolled for the ability to remember?
You can write it down if you want.
Okay, thanks.
He leans in and he whispers his incantations to you, which is, if you do what I tell you, I will pay you 100 Swiss francs.
Okay.
Okay. Headphones on. It's good.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll just finish writing it.
All right. We're back.
His Hebrew spelling is a bit dodgy, so it took a little while.
Of course.
I'm spelling it phonetically because what else can you do in such situations?
Exactly. And he sort of leans back and he says,
The spell is done.
"The spell is done."
Yeah.
He says to you, Mr. Delarue, when I count down 3 blinks. For the next half an hour, you will feel like the room is heating up by 1 degree every minute. But after 30 minutes, the spell will be broken. And he blinks 3 times.
Gaston shakes a little bit and looks around the room and looks back at the great bowman. When do we begin?
He says, "Oh, believe me, the first few minutes may not feel so much, but we have begun." A round of applause for Mr. Delarue, and everyone applauds you. Please return to your seat, Mr. Delarue. I believe dessert is on its way. Have you enjoyed tonight, Nancy? There's a pause, and then there's laughter from the corner.
Gaston looks a little bit confused.
The laughter continues. The laughter continues.
Rudy refuses to say a name.
I'm just checking. If she cannot stop laughing.
And then what? And then he sort of walks past, and you hear the great bowman again says, "That's enough, Nancy. Thank you." And she stops, and he vanishes off back to the snug, I guess. And
okay. So, sorry, Luke, but Dark Rudy has to do the following. He says,
I like Dark Rudy.
No, carry on, Nancy. Does the laughter continue?
She starts laughing again.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will leave it up to the great bowman to stop here because Rudy won't.
Well, the problem is Bowman's gone off.
He will take a note, and he will take some notes.
Bowman's gone off to the snug, so he hasn't realised it's happened. So Nancy's sat there laughing at the table. I can give you Nancy updates.
Periodic Nancy updates.
Nancy updates.
She's now falling over a table, just punching the table with mirth.
How about our dear friend Gaston? Is he joining us in the table? Is he okay? How does he look?
Up to you guys.
Gaston will very much look confused at first and look around, but as he is told to make his way back to the table, he'll make his way back to the table. And look at the other two and say, "Well, I don't feel any different." What?
Don't feel any hotter?
It's funny. You should maybe slightly warmer.
Rudi takes off a stopwatch from his vest, and he gives it to Gaston actually to check every minute. And please do tell us. And while you're here, what were the incantations that he whispered to your head? Do you recollect them? Because I couldn't hear them.
I have a vague memory of what was mentioned, but perhaps it would be better if and he looks around the room. We met tonight in my room or your room and discussed such matters in private.
That's more interesting. That sounds more than I believed.
Of course, with such friends, I will be as upright and open and forthright as I possibly can.
You say that the great bowman has wandered through to the snug. Is that right?
He has wandered through to the snug, or through that door, which you would assume.
Yeah.
His room is upstairs, so there's no reason to go necessarily that way unless he's going to the snug or the billiard room.
And did I hear tell that last night he did his levitation trick in the snug?
He did do his levitation trick in the snug?
Then I shall stand up and follow him, please, towards the snug.
Splendid. As you get up to leave, Philippe and the other waiters are bringing round some really nice hot chocolate-looking desserts for everyone, and some cheese boards are being laid out as well, and some sort of raclettes and bits and pieces, and some fondue bits and stuff, and some more drinks. Keep people happy. Nancy is still laughing, but starts to sound like she's struggling a bit as Tony leaves.
Yep.
Rudi and Gaston, are you leaving, or am I just heading in with Tony?
Gaston will turn to Rudi and say, "Well, do we follow? You are the expert when it comes to yourself and Monsieur Tony."
Sorry, Luke, I might have missed something. Where are we going? What's going on?
Tony is going to the snug because the great bowman has gone there after his performance.
Oh, so the performance is over.
He did his 3 hypnosis, and then he got the applause. He got Nancy to laugh. He got Dr. de Groot to search out evil. And he got Gaston to get hotter by a degree every 30 minutes. And then he's gone to applause.
I might have somehow missed that. How about Nancy? She's still has it turned her off?
She's laughing, but it sounds a bit pained laughing now. Like she'd rather not be laughing right now.
Interesting. So he vanished without, saying his last Nancy.
Well, he left, and then you said Nancy after he left, so he doesn't know that Nancy's laughing at this moment.
Really?
Oh, Luke,
That's very interesting.
A beauty.
Okay, then Rudi turns to Tony and Gaston and says, he obviously he's staring at Nancy Durand, and he makes it be, he actually waves towards her to his companions and says, and I wanted you to tell me what Jean Durand is doing. Is he having fun, or is he trying to calm his fiancée or something? What's the situation?
Roll an education form.
Straight education, or do I add the occult?
No, you're not getting the occult for now.
Okay, 3 + 6, that's a 9.
From what you can tell, both of you have talked with Jean before. You're not friends or anything, but you know his mannerisms. He looks.
Yeah, he's an actor though, so
he looks very fed up with her and a bit embarrassed, and he's trying to shush her. From what you can tell, he doesn't look best pleased. But it's at this point that Tony is getting up to go to the snug, Rudi. So, do you wish to stay in the room or go with Tony?
I wish to stay. Actually, I lean to Tony and I say, if you don't mind, I want to see where this Miss Durand situation is going towards.
Absolutely.
I'm fascinated. See you in a bit, my friend.
And I
What
shall.
about you,
I
Gaston?
shall follow out of the dining hall and through to the snug, please.
Perfect.
A minute or more has passed. Are you feeling any hotter, my point?
I mean, I guess by this point, Gaston will say, somewhat warmer, perhaps. A drop in the breeze, and he looks around for
Bob Dylan. Calm down.
He looks around for somebody, like an open window that has now been closed, or a door or similar. Nothing unusual for now. And then he turns to Rudi and says, "Well, perhaps I'll I'll leave you to observe by yourself if that suits you, and goes to follow Rudi. Goes to follow
He
Tony.
he says he hasn't given you a shut-off mechanism to his spell, hasn't he? Is this thing supposed to go on? He said, oh, sorry, Akira. Sorry, never mind that. He said after 30 minutes that thing is gonna run its course, right?
Yeah,
He
it's done
said
after
that.
30. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind that. Never mind the last.
Okay, we're gonna follow Tony for a moment. We're getting towards the end of the session, of course. It's gone a bit longer, but we'll go with Tony as you're
Okay.
heading straight through to the. You see, head out into that hallway first of all.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, I'll step out into the hall, immediately glance to my left towards the billiard room just to make sure that he didn't walk that way, and then follow straight through into the snug.
the billiard room door is open. There's two absolute randoms knocking some balls around some bays.
Okay.
As you head into the snug, you see Gaston standing up in the dining hall, obviously looking to move on,
Mhm.
and you head into the snug. The snug is incredibly snuggy. There's if you look to the right, there's two doors that lead out onto another balcony, um, which stares out more towards the town. It's still a very pretty view,
Mhm.
but there's more town view. You've been in the snug before. There's another fireplace in the snug. The thing that marks the snug out is a giant, overstuffed bear, leering out with its claws and its paws and its arms leaning out. A very badly stuffed sort of bear.
This is even larger than railway bears.
Yes. This bear's like 10 foot on its legs. Sort of,
Right. This is a full-size, substantial bear.
a big bear. Whoever shot it
Yeah.
a very large
Big
whale.
bear.
A big bear. There are lots of those leather wingback chairs, sort of studded chairs scattered around some low
Yep.
tables. There's a couple of randoms sat there sipping on glasses of spirits. There's sort of a cigar smoke that seems to be like a 24/7 thing, sort of hovering like a foot or two from the ceiling.
Mhm.
And there are some very low lights set and a couple of candles around as well. Both doors are shut. There's someone on the balcony. It's not the Great Bowman on the balcony, but there's someone sat leaning out with another drink and a cigar. Bowman is stood over in the corner, removing his cape.
I'm not going to approach him too closely, but I'm going to walk up, sort of to the middle of the room, and I'm going to say, Bowman.
He sort of he holds his finger up, like the 1 minute kind of one moment,
Mhm.
and he finishes under his cape. If you're willing to let him do this,
I am.
and he sort of slowly takes it down and he folds it up carefully, and he has like a case, like a briefcase that he opens and he puts it into it. So he's opened his case fully up, put it into it. A couple of other bits and pieces go into it. Closes his case, cranks it shut, flicks the code dial on it, places it down next to the side of the room, and he turns around to see you. As he turns, could you roll a charisma, please?
Yep. That's a 4 plus 3 is a 7.
Okay. On that, you catch that he puts the smile on halfway round.
Okay.
Mr. Guerrero, did you enjoy the performance?
I must confess, I enjoyed it somewhat, but I was hoping for more.
Well, the first rule of a performance is always leave the crowd hoping for more.
I have heard that.
You and I are both here for the next 2 evenings, I'm sure. you can be wowed by me for 2 more nights.
Well, what I really wanted to see was something that I'd been told that you could do, and which you haven't done. Which, as you can imagine, I find very disappointing.
And what, pray tell, is that, Mr. Guerrero?
I had heard from a member of staff here that you could levitate using nothing more than the power of your mind.
It is true. It is an art I learnt travelling the Middle East. I learnt it from the mystics.
It
As I
sounds
learned
an
to climb a
impressive
rope.
skill.
It is a skill that not many can learn. You have to have a finely honed mind.
I was hoping you could demonstrate.
I demonstrated last night, Mr. Guerrero. Were you not here?
Sadly, I was unable to catch that performance.
Well, it's tonight is Friday. I had planned for Sunday evening, the final night of the symposium, to give one last performance of my greatest hits, as it were, and I will levitate again then. You must understand, it takes a lot of mental energy, and I'm so tired after the hypnosis and so tired after the mind reading that it would just not be possible to give you a truly great performance right now.
I would settle for a merely adequate performance.
He's laughs at you again. He says, Mr. Guerrero, you understand that. Exactly, John. You must understand that I am worn out. My bed is calling. A hot toddy is calling. But please do not see this as a slight. I wish to perform for you, and I will perform for you Sunday night. But I cannot perform for you now. My mind is exhausted from hypnotizing your friends and the others in the room.
Of course. I understand completely. And I will give him a nice smile and turn on my heel and walk back to the dining room, please.
As you're walking back out the door, it's when Gaston comes through because he was coming as well. You were, weren't you? You were coming out. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
As sort of you're walking towards the door, Gaston comes out, and the great bowman sees him come in, and he sort of oh, Mr. Delarue, how are you feeling? You feeling warm at all?
Gas. He removes the fur hooded coat and says, "Well, now that you mention it, it is oddly uncomfortable in the hotel. I don't think I've felt this warm since I've been here. Let me just find Philippe. I must return his coat and check on." He sort of looks around the room for a fire that's going.
Tony, roll your education, please.
5 + 4, 9.
Something feels off.
Off with
the conversation between the two of them. You can't put your finger on it. Something feels a bit strange. As you walk out the door, as Gaston comes in, that's like all you can feel. You know, like when you get that vibe.
Yeah. I will change my mind about leaving the room then, and I will walk over to where Gaston is. And I will say to him, "Are you all right, my friend?"
But of course, Monsieur Tony, I'm fine. It's just I feel I've had this on for too long. It seems to be warming up somewhat in here, and he wipes his brow. Looks around for Philippe.
The beloved Philippe.
Now my beloved Philippe, yes, certainly.
John's here till dawn, I've just discovered. So I'll get another bottle of wine. You look around, but your beloved Philippe is not one of the waiters that's in there. There is a waiter in here that's sort of tidying up the glasses that are there, if you know what I mean. But
I'm sorry, my good friend. I can't find him, but perhaps another member of the staff will be able to put this aside for him. And he's now carrying the fur coat with hood. He wipes his head.
Perhaps if you had a seat.
Perhaps yes, yeah. Perhaps that would cool down my French blood. Would you mind running this over to the member of staff over there? It's for Philippe, a good friend. Well, I say a good friend. He did me a favor. Certainly a good man.
you're so easily won over, Gaston.
And
nicely, a friend.
and opposite like Van Beck. Not only won over, but offended as well. Or I'm happy to do so if you don't want to. You stay with the great Bowman here, and I shall run this back to the staff. I'll rejoin you shortly.
I'll take the coat, but I'm not going anywhere with it.
But please see that it does find its way back to Philippe.
It's safe with me.
It's his personal property, and I don't want to be responsible for
it. It's safe with me. Don't worry.
Now you say it's safe with you, but I suppose it's not a pair of trousers at least. Chuckles somewhat and sits down.
I'm going to search the coat while I have it.
Before you search the coat, a waiter walks past with some half empty bottles of a glass of wine and spirits. Could you roll an agility for me, please, Ben?
Yeah. That's 4 + 1 is a 5.
As you sort of grab the coat and you spin it around, you sort of knock the waiter off his flight path somewhat. And you sort of catch him. He's like, and he sort of starts juggling his glasses. And I've got to roll a dice. He manages to catch. It looks like some wine is going to pour over the blanket for a second. He manages to catch the glass, and some goes onto his shirt, but he looks a billion times more relieved that it's on him than on the sort of the hooded blanket.
As he should.
Mr. Guerrero, I'm so sorry. I hope everything is okay.
It seems there are no casualties.
He looks down at his shirt and pauses for a second at the wine. Says, "Very true, sir. I'm glad there are no casualties." and hurries on through the door.
Okay. So can I search it?
If you want, yeah. Guest Philippe's coat. Roll. I'm not going to make you roll. It's got pockets, and no one's going to stop you searching. There are like 2 inbuilt sort of pockety things on the inside. One is totally empty. One has a handwritten receipt for a bakery in town.
Okay.
For some bread and some cakes. They sound very delightful, and they cost half a dozen Swiss francs.
Okay. Right, then I shall just stay for the time being with Gaston, please.
First off, Luke, just quickly, there's a Roll20 chat. I just wanted to check whether you'd seen it or not. But secondly, not from me. Gaston will have undone his bow tie by this point, and it's sort of dangling down, and undone a top button on his shirt. Sort of Tony, Monsieur Tony, I do apologise. It's so unlike me to have come across in such a fashion.
Sorry, I was looking at the Roll20 chat. Sorry, there's nothing from you. Just the thing from John. We'll finish before that.
Yeah.
We'll finish before that. So,
Okay,
Karen,
cool.
what you can say? Oh, everyone got to see the workings behind. Basically, John needed a wee if we were going to go on. But
I wasn't going to call him out, Luke.
because I need a wee. Because I've gone for a bottle of wine, but I'm powering on to the end. The thing is, John, can we have a round of applause for John because it's 4:30 in the morning. The guy's
Yeah.
got 2 cats sat on his lap all night, and he's had one week.
Relax.
For about 4 hours.
I've stayed up. I've stayed up before in my life.
It's just going to keep
I
going.
can handle it. It's okay.
The thing is, John's only 18. It's just he stays up so long. It's age. So
Not
that's
quite
it's
true.
okay,
Not
mate.
quite true.
Sorry, Gaston. What was it you said?
He's basically he's undone his bow tie, and it's just left dangling in his top collar, and is sort of beating it for a bit of air. And he apologises to Tony. I'm sorry, my friend. It's very unbecoming of me to present myself like this in such a situation. I don't know what's come over me.
Nor do I, in the strictest sense, but it's all right. We're all friends here.
He bows his head humbly.
He Bowman's his head.
No, not that swine. He does half look over, I suppose, to Bauman at that point, out of the the peripherals of his eyes, and just sees any reaction.
As he does, Bauman sort of gives you a look of acknowledgement, I guess. Sort of squints his eyes a little, and he says, "So you are getting warm. Good. Something inside me tells me you should start feeling better before too long. If you're worried that it's a flu or a fever, do not fear. You should be okay. Just trust me on this. Just a side effect of what you and I went through. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a wonderful ice cream waiting for me at my table, and a lovely chat with the Esposito twins." And he nods to you two to let him go if you're happy for him to go through to the room.
I'm as soon as he says that, I'm going to say to Gaston, yes, we should go as well.
Gaston is already half standing up but because someone is leaving, so he will raise from his seat. But
John's called him out for what he is. Not a chance.
No arguments here.
It's black licorice ice cream, John.
So yes, I shall encourage Gaston to join me, and we will walk back into the dining room.
Yes, Gaston will continue his standing and follow on with Tony.
As you've been out, as you're going to move to the room, let's move back to Rudi. I told you I'll give you some Nancy updates, and I feel I should.
Mm-hmm. How many minutes have passed? That is continuously laughing.
I would say they were out of the room for probably between 5 and 10 minutes. It feels feels about right, Ben. You only have about 5-10. It feels.
Yeah, probably closer to 5, I would think. Yeah.
5, yeah. Okay. How often? How obviously are you trying to check, Rudi? How?
Oh, I'm keeping notes. I'm checking on Jean Durand to see if he's. We know he's an actor, but he's not like an Oscar level actor or whatever. So if he seems worried about, if he seems worried about his fiancée, like people are leaving the show, there are no more like people to impress, or but then she's still uncontrollably laughing. then maybe Rudi at some point, he will be further interested. He's not gonna say her name whatsoever in the at this state. But yeah, give me some more hot details about Nancy.
Hot
Don't say hot.
hot detail.
Yes, maybe a wrong poor
Some
choice of words.
room temperature details.
Yeah.
Um, the first update I will give on what because you rolled before. So the first couple of minutes, you notice she's still laughing. She's looking around. She's looking around a lot. Um, for who or what you don't know, but her laughter is becoming less natural and more forced, I guess. But she's still laughing.
Mm.
Jean is started by playing along. He was sort of smiling and laughing, but he's looking a bit fed up and trying to shush her and calm her down at this point.
Okay, then Rudi is gonna take out his pipe,
Mm-hmm.
fill it up slowly, waiting for all the guests to leave, all the people that supposedly the great I always forgot his name, the great Bauman
How
is
dare you
going
forget his
to.
name? This is the great Bauman.
Great who?
That is revenge for Gaston. Got
Ah,
it.
thanks, John.
But yeah, it's like all the customers, all the people that the great Bauman can impress have left, and she's still uh, laughing uncontrollably. And her fiance is looking super worried and trying to stop her. Then maybe Rudi might be entering the spectrum of belief that he might be for real.
Yeah.
So, what's up with that? Where are we right now in
Right.
this situation?
I will get you, my dear Rudi, to roll. You're looking at how people react. You're looking at the vibe of things. So can you roll a charisma for me, please? You're
Red
getting
charisma.
yeah, because you're getting the vibe of the room. You're getting that whole sense of how people are in the room, right? So you go for that, please.
Damn it! I've rolled so many aces tonight.
Oh,
That's a
not
total
again.
of 4.
Right.
Damn it.
I'll tell you what you can see. So I can only tell you what anyone in that room could see, right?
Yeah.
What you can see is so as you're sat there for those minutes, people are going through their desserts, they're taking their drinks, and what you're finding is that one by one, especially those that are the hangers on, like those 10 people that were just in for the meal, that they are heading out to the outside bar to make the most of that view, and that bar is beautiful. So if there's people that are coming for one night, they are going to that bar. And so the room is clearing out. So anyone that's not on that list in the top left is pretty much gone by now.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
what you're noticing as well is that John and Nancy are still sat in the corner. Nancy's kind of laughing and looking around. Um, Van Beek and De Groot get up, and you hear them mention something about billiards.
Billiards? What's that?
Billiards, yeah, like the billiard room. They go to play like.
The next room. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will go slowly after I filled and lighten up my pipe to, give some hello to them. Like, thank you for the snaps, gentlemen. Mr. Mr. the Groot. That's one. That's the one who got on the stage, right?
The hypnotized guy, yes.
How can I say this? Can I speak frankly to you openly with no filters of society or whatnot?
Yeah, Van Beek was the one you upset more, so De Groot is happy to listen to you. Yes, of course, Mr. Otto.
What was this thing about you identifying evil in the room? A bit odd.
I don't know, Mr. Otto. To be honest to you, um, I stared into the man's eyes, and I lost track of my thoughts and myself. And the next thing I know, I was apprehending a burglar.
I suppose you understand how easily this whole act can be staged.
Absolutely, Mr. Otto. Absolutely. But
You don't know me, and I don't know you, but you're a man of science. So, scientifically speaking, per se, you could be part of the great Bauman's act.
roll a charisma plus occult for me, please.
I will destroy him. 4 plus total of 4, 8. This is a success.
Um, the Groot looks at you and he says, um, I am a, I, I believe, I have an open mind, and I believe that the great Bauman did indeed enter my mind. That's what he said. What you see in his eyes is not necessarily exactly what he said.
Hmm. And I suppose you understand that the burglar or the wallet thief could be part of it as well. How about you? He turns around a bit like suddenly to Dr. Van Beek.
Mhm.
Uh, what do you take of this thing that happened to your colleague?
Um, I'll take the role that you did before. He says, "Well, I'm not as much of a believer, and I believe that
That's
anyone
what you said. Yes.
anyone can take clues from things they've seen. There are thieves around this area at this time. It's a rich area. It's possible that the Great Bowman or Doctor De Groot, he sort of hides, tries to not talk too loudly by Doctor Groot, saw the thief. But I must admit, this is the one that of the three, this is the one that surprises me the most.
Really? Not the fact that this young woman is laughing uncontrollably for over 10, 5, 20 minutes now? How much has gone by? I'm not quite sure. I've given my clock to Gaston de la Rue.
Ah, but Mr. Otto, do you not see how she keeps looking over? Is she truly laughing uncontrollably?
Well, to my estimation, no person can laugh controllably for more than 30 minutes, so we are bound to find out. I say a bit intimidatingly. Then I nudge him and I do this also to his shoulder. I say, have a great evening, the both of you doctors. See you around in the next, in tomorrow's events to come.
Absolutely, my dear sir. We shall see you tomorrow at the lectures. I look forward to it, and tomorrow evening also.
And then I leave them and I joined the young couple, Jean and his wife and his fiance.
Nancy.
Yes, I won't say her name. Not
Ah,
even, not even out of
I
game.
tried to trick you into.
Oh, well played, John.
As you join them, Mr. Guerrero, Mr. Delarue have come back through. The two of you going to join as well, or are you going to stay separate?
I will. Yes, I will stride across to where Rudi is sitting down, and I will join at that table.
Gaston will, as Tony is heading over, he'll survey the slightly emptier room and just put a hand on his shoulder and say, perhaps I'm willing to join, but perhaps a private conversation would be best first.
Very well. I'll follow to an appropriate quiet table.
We'll take the quiet conversation first, and then we'll take the rounds with Rudi, if that's okay.
Okay.
Tony and Gaston.
And Gaston will very much look around before setting in and make sure that there's nobody sort of in earshot or paying too much attention.
Do I need to make Rudi take his headphones off again?
Yeah, probably.
John, headphones off, please. Till I give the thumbs up.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
And Gaston will sit down with Tony and look him directly in the eye, and he'll say, my apologies for the for dragging it on as long as I have, but and he'll lower his voice to a stage whisper, I suppose, and say the man is a fraud.
Well, yes.
I'm glad you agree. The incantation was the promise of 100 Swiss francs if I do what he tells me. There was no mention of keeping it secret, but I feel that was implied somewhat.
Yes. He wouldn't demonstrate his levitation for me, you know.
No, I can very much imagine. Perhaps it's not the same monetary bribe, but that there is something just as underhand at play.
Yes. Excellent. Well, thank you for the news. I was expecting some kind of trick. It's good to have it confirmed.
But of course, it's as I say, there was no.
Shall we join the others?
Indeed.
Okay. We shall get up and walk over to now join Rudi at his table. Okay.
Yep.
Thumbs up for everyone.
Thumbs up for everyone. Thumbs up for the posse.
Thumbs up all
Hey,
round.
John's back. Hey,
John.
The Fonzie.
All right. To the Durans.
So you join over the Durans. Jean looks up at you. He's a bit miffed at what's going on. I don't know if the Greeks have a word for miffed. He's a bit frustrated and bored and fed up with it.
Yeah. Actually, I was talking with someone. I did know the translation. I can tell it to you, but it won't. It will sound all Greek to you. I sit at the table next to Jean.
School, not Greek, so.
I sit next to Jean and I extend my hand for a firm and warm handshake.
Mr. Otto, how are you?
Mr. Jean has been very peculiar circumstances since we last saw each other, haven't it?
I know. It was to find out about, he lowers his voice, that woman was a shock to me. It broke my heart. It took months to get over the pain. But luckily, this beautiful woman, and he sort of winces a bit as she keeps laughing, like a grey, came into my life.
My dear entertainer, I'm afraid that the tragedy that happened upon that boat sail was not your spouse betraying your trust, but over a dozen men dying. By the way, if I'm exaggerating, Tony's Rudy's exaggerating. I don't remember how many people died, but there were a lot.
There were quite a few.
Some at your hand, Rudi, quite frankly.
Yes. So yeah, he's playing mind games with that actor right now, actually. So to say that the thing that you remember from that boat ride was just that you're being betrayed, but your loved one was not a humane thing to say.
You must remember, Mr. Otto, that I spent much of that final day locked in a room downstairs, and I know you went through all sorts of terrible things, but I was not privy to those things. I did weep for the lost life and for the colonel and for the sister and for all those that lost their lives on that boat. It was terrible, and I feel ashamed that I did not see my girlfriend at the time for what she was.
What she really was. Rudi gets lost a bit in his thoughts. The truth, he whispers to himself. He whispers actually to German. I cannot remember the German name. Ersklik, something like that. And says, actually, what did you see about her in her last minutes? Were you there when it happened?
But when she died, I was locked down in the under in the in the underwater cells. I know that
Mm.
your cell was the one that saved us all. I was down there with some of the others locked away. She turned on me when I was not expecting it, and one of one of the crew hit me around the head with
He
the knife.
whispers. Tony whisper. Sorry, Rudy. I don't know why I'm saying my character Tony tonight. Rudy. Rudy whispers to himself in German, so he didn't see. Ich habe nicht gesehen. But I'm glad that you found happiness after all in the form of your new fiancé. How are you, my dear? Did you enjoy the show?
To start with, Jean speaks for to start with, and he sort of winces a bit at Drain like laughing. And he says, I was so fortunate to find such a beautiful woman willing to become my wife so quickly. And I'm sure my fame and my fortune was nothing to do with it. She said it was all about my personality. And then
Of
winces again.
course.
As, she's such a beautiful lady, do you not think? And then winces again as she keeps laughing.
I'm more interested to the inside more than the outside when I looking for a spouse. That's why I have been lonely for so many years. I was a joke, of course, my friend.
But
I'm glad for you,
Jean
and I'm
is
glad.
very French, so he's very philosophical. So he will definitely accept the nihilism in your concept.
And congratulations on your next big part. It's Sigmund Freud, yeah?
Yes, I will be giving a, a lecture on it tomorrow. I hope you'll be there, and I hope you'll find it
What's
interesting. I know it's just a throwaway drama to such educated men as yourself and Mr. Guerrero, of course.
it's a difficult role to capture fully. What will be your approach, I wonder? And then take a look while he will explain his actor shit, which Rudy has little to no interest. He will concentrate to Nancy and see if she's faking it, if she's suffering, if he will concentrate with her while he probably will start explaining his actor stuff.
So the conversation's going. So yeah, so you're chatting actor stuff, conversation. Nancy's still laughing throughout. It almost looks like it's hurting her now. I guess Jean will talk acting with
So,
you.
so she can't talk at all. She can't say any other words. She just laugh non so.
She's refusing to talk. She's doing that with her. She's doing that with her hands. So like, no, 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 no. Jean will, but Nancy.
Tony, sorry, again, Tony, what the fuck? Rudy is passing his notebook into a blank page to her, and he asks, "Do you want me to tell your name and for this to stop?" So he writes it down. He pretends to write down notes of of Jean, of his like acting approach, but passingly he does that to Nancy, you know.
Nancy nods at you. Now, at this point, this is where Tony and Gaston are walking over. They're walking. So you've sent the note saying, "Do you want me to say your name?" And she nods. Now, as she does that, Tony and Gaston are walking between the tables. And there are waiters clearing the tables as they come over. Half of the tables are empty now, right? The Dutch have gone to play billiards. The hangers-on have gone to the outside bar. The great Bowman is in the snug. So you've got the Esposito table. You've got you guys. You've got the Durans. You've got Claire Spelling. You've got another couple. And so as you walk over, though, the waiters are bringing drinks and food and that. Tony and Gaston, could you roll an agility for me, please? To see if you break Rudy's attention.
Indeed.
That's 6.
Mine's a 4 plus a 4 is an 8.
So as they walk over, Philippe is carrying a platter with some leftover dessert and a couple of glasses of wine. Gaston sees it coming and dodges out the way. And Tony, sadly, does not. And he smashes fully into Philippe. And the wine glasses and the food fly up in the air. And the wine comes down and splatters all over Tony's second best pair of trousers. Soiling the trousers massively. And at that point, Nancy looks around at Tony and stops laughing. And that's where we're going to finish for the night.
Wait, stops laughing? What's the opportune moment to carry on laughing? No, I
the rest of us laugh, but she
It's
stopped
beautiful.
laughing.
That's
That's where we're going to end for the evening.
Oh,
Good says, GM.
very nice.
I need to go to bed and get up because I've got church, and then you two are going to come and look at the building that we're doing for our role play.
Oh, indeed.
That's right. We're going to examine a building.
Examine the building.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. You might as well stay up now. It's pretty much morning.
Yeah, John.
Just power
thank you.
through, man. Power through.
It's fine. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
And you, anime.
GG.
Just power through now. To the rest of you joining us, because some of you seem to hang on after you raided, and we really appreciate that.
We really do.
And Anime Jugs, it's your first time chatting. Thank you so much for joining us. This session runs every 4 or 5 weeks, I guess. Every Friday, Saturday, we role play, and it's a mishmash. It's all quite chilled out, silly stuff. Next week, we're playing Orbital Blues, which is a slightly different lineup, but it's silly and chill as well. It's very story based. Everything we do is very story based. So
Have we got Traveller on the Friday as well, which
got
is where
Traveller on
the
the
Baltic
Friday,
Star
yeah.
comes from. So
yeah, the Baltic Star.
if you're
Baltic
interested
Traveller.
in that,
Yeah.
we're not currently around the Baltic Star, but
So
we will
Friday-
be eventually.
So Friday we're doing Traveller, which is sci-fi. Saturday is Orbital Blues, which is like the Cowboy Bebop, that sort of vibe. And we've got a lady who her name is Socks. She was in the chat. She's the John for that night. And then we'll be. I've got to message John in the next couple of days to work out the next date that he's available, because we're in a Swiss. We're in Switzerland. We're in a beautiful St. Moritz. We need to come back. There's wine everywhere. Tony's trousers are ruined.
Last minute. You almost
He almost got through the.
You
You almost
It's like
survived the whole episode. Yeah,
Best
yeah.
pair of trousers.
It's the longest he's ever lasted with a clean pair of trousers.
It is. It
It's
is.
a cliffhanger scene.
An entire episode without ruining a pair of Tony's trousers.
So tomorrow we do nothing. Monday night I'll be playing Cyberpunk. on the video game. Then we'll be back role playing next Friday. So if you like our role playing stuff, come back Friday, Saturday, 11 p.m. GMT.
Yeah.
But until then, thank you so much, John. You're our favourite of all the men that we role play with.
You are a legend, sir.
A hero, indeed.
Almost. You and Spares, anyway.
I really enjoyed playing with all the boys tonight. So it has been a pleasure. Thank you.
You're a joy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your
Thanks, everyone.
your
Thank you all
Rudy
who are watching now.
cynicism.
Thank you, anyone on VOD.
If you like what you see, you don't follow us, consider following us. Twitter at Boys Baltic as well. And yeah, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon, hopefully. Take care, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.